retweeted.
It's showtime. Okay, you were live. Okay.
Showtime.
It's showtime.
We're back.
We're back. We are here. We are. I'm not gonna. I can't say that other part. It's the first few minutes.
It's really funny about that motto because I've been slowly rewatching King of the Hill, and I'm on season 5. And yesterday, we were watching. I think it was the episode 12 or 13, the one where the doctor's just like, "Mr. Hill, you have no ass."
That was a great one.
It's a great one. They
you got to wear the booties.
Yeah, the little implants, or what, the orthotic or whatever.
Yeah.
But the guys at the end, they're like, "We're here with no rear. Get used to it." And that's because I sit all day at work, and I'm sitting all day even more for this podcast. So my ass is definitely grass, and it's being mowed by the struggle. How have you been, Gio?
I've been all right. I think we both had a pretty busy summer vacation or staycation.
I don't think you can call it vacation.
yeah. Like I spent a lot of time with the woman, and I got to see, which I will review on Content Minded. I got to see the McMichael Gallery for the first time since I was a kid, because my GF begged me to go. And frankly, I should go because it's a place with almost religious significance for me as a landscape painter in Canada, to see the group of 7, to see like the core members paintings. It's funny because on the wall was actually 2 paintings I had done color studies for by Tom Thompson side by side. And they had other exhibitions. They had one I want to talk about in particular was this exhibit by Norval Morisot, and it was great. It was great. A lot of driving though, but is what it is. Family commitment stuff. But how was your summer vacation, Prude? You were, you're pretty busy.
I've been busy. Yeah, I started a new job, which I quite enjoy, and then I got her all moved in. So yeah, life has been pretty busy, and of course, every day has been, for like the last 3 weeks, my neck of the woods, really a whole part of the country, has been under like a heat advisory, and it's been rough. Yeah, I mean, you guys, I don't know if I don't know.
It's not like Texas, but like.
Well, I mean, I'm still allowed to go walk around in the woods. I don't know, in some provinces of Canada, the guys are getting $28,000 fine. I don't know how else to describe that other than confirming every sort of like 2020, themed. I don't want to call it a conspiracy theory because obviously
biosecurity theater.
Yeah, like the biosecurity theater now extends to the climate, and it's just like
Didn't like Bernie Sanders predict that there's going to be climate refugees in the future, or
John Kerry did back in the Obama administration, and he was basically just openly telling you like, yeah, you think it's bad now. Wait till the climate refugees come. The climate refugees. I thought this is what we were paying Mr. Beast to take care of. Apparently, I was wrong.
Mr. Beast just keeps digging his hole by reacting to like racist Twitter anons. But the one thing I will say
don't feed the trolls. I mean, I feel like he's got an agent. He's a multimillionaire. Maybe a billionaire. I don't know. But like. You know better. Like, you should have a PR team that's like, do not do this. Do not open this can of worms. Because like even smaller YouTubers, right, that are for everything. And Lord willing, I'll have a series of articles out on this. The first one will be this Friday for sure. It's scheduled. But like, it's crazy that even smaller YouTubers that I think after you hit 120,000, depending on your metrics, they start cold calling and cold emailing you these talent agencies to recruit you and to manage your money and contact, and your content, and to boost, SEO stuff, to work on thumbnails and to work that stuff with you. So it doesn't matter if you're like a challenge runner YouTuber or you're like Mr. Beast's like emporium of reality bending sociological experiments for money. You have an agent, like the new Hollywood is here to stay and it's not going away anytime soon. And what makes that really more interesting to me is like it proliferates, and like anyone can technically have that if you get far enough into playing the game, so to speak. And you would think that there's this like basic PR 101 of like, do not engage with coordinated groups or people that might be able to ratio you. Now,
don't engage with people with a David Koresh avatar on Twitter. Like
you will lose. You will lose. Because that man knows how to get under your skin.
But it's the one thing I will say about the Saskatchewan, or no, sorry, Nova Scotia. I keep getting confused. There was a people that were like actually going into the woods and eating the fine to like prove a point. I'm pretty sure some of them were like rebel media plants or whatever. But I think like who was it that was talking about this? I think it was Fortisax, or was it Black Horse? One of my fellow Leaf friends that said, the rhetoric of a lot of like normie conservatives, like, and some of the people I actually do quite respect, and I watch their content occasionally, like Frankie Vaughn. Frank Vaughn's a pretty good YouTuber. But then there's like other ones. I noticed a lot of like Canadian conservatives reached prominence during Clownvid for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I think like their take that it's authoritarianism. It's authoritarian, which is a consistent problem at least since the 2000s, if not longer, in the Canadian conservative sphere, which is to basically ape the talking points of, a typical American Fox News Republican. So I think like the rhetoric of like, this is authoritarian. I mean, definitely is authoritarian, but I think like the rhetoric about a sort of strong central government, I think you can criticize this particular policy without making a blanket statement that smacks of sort of like American conservative, like right side of liberalism, libertarianism, whereas Canada has a totally different tradition. And I think like, sorry, I'm hitting the thing here. I think like a temporary selective ban on certain activities in the forest during the time of wildfires, especially when there is like air pollution everywhere. I think like that's somewhat warranted, but I think the way that the Nova Scotia government went about it, the premier, was to do this like blanket ban that does smack of like the events of 5 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever. I think, but I think the rhetoric of conservatives is sort of like short-sighted. But at the same time, like I totally disagree with it. I think that the penalties and the fines, it's totally ridiculous. And it smacks of an ignorance of like what is actually causing these wildfires, whether it be natural occurrences like lightning, or I mean, there have been documented cases of malicious actors setting off wildfires, yes, but I don't think the average camper that has any experience with how to handle a campfire should be punished. But anyways, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like even in Texas, like in rural parts of the state, like you have burn bans, right? Because people will burn their trash, or they'll burn refuse or whatever, and I
think Sweden has a universal ban because of the ground floor has a lot of flammable material or something.
Well, sure, right, but like I mean, the question it becomes like, why, right? Like I mean,
right.
The obvious answer would be like, okay, well, our justification is going to be like to stop like the likelihood of wildfires or for arson. But then it's like, okay, well, if that's the case, then you'd think that we would be given more answers than anything else, right? You're left scavenging for some kind of clue that they're not really giving you here. And of course, people are testing it. And I do agree with you. One of the things that I really despise, I think it happened more in Canada just because of proximity. I mean, a little bit of it happens in the United Kingdom just with, say, from UKIP onwards, really, there has been this greater Americanization of conservative party politics, which to some extent, I mean, in some parts of Canada and some parts of the British Isles, like that is certainly further to the right than the Tories are allowed to go in a lot of respects, which, I mean, there's some net good to that. But also, like, as I was talking with Charlemagne and Ryan Turnipseed just yesterday, like, the American democratic tradition is so wildly different than Canada's, the Dominions or Britain's. It's just like none of this really groks in the same way that, we want it to. Like, yeah, there's the Anglosphere, but our political traditions are so different. And I think it becomes more and more important for Canada to define itself, not like contra America or negative America, but like it needs to define itself without really considering us to begin with. Like I think the greatest tragedy has been the sort of like Trudeau-esque rah patriotism of like, we're Canadians, we're not Americans. Like there's so much more to Canada than just that. And I think it's so depressing that it's been reduced to that regard in all facets of politics.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the Mark Carney elbows up nonsense. I mean, why do you pick that as a slogan? Because like having your elbow up is illegal in hockey. I mean, even when hockey was more brutal, it's still illegal to elbow somebody in the face. So I don't know. That's just a stupid move. But no, I think like also the sort of like, in a sense, like it does make a little bit of sense, but I think in terms of the present geopolitical circumstances, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You have a lot of Canadians on the left that want to align themselves with the EU, which I think that obviously Canada is more in tune with its European, or at least was more in tune with its European heritage relative to America, because of course America, was founded on revolution and so on and so forth. But at the same time, I think that if the Atlantean elite wants to align itself with the European Union, you're trading in like the world superpower, which I mean, granted, is giving us a raw deal, for even more incompetent and I would say increasingly more irrelevant European elites on the world stage. I don't think that makes any sense. Now, that I'm not knocking European people, obviously. I just think that the current, like, did you see that photo with Z-Man and Trump, and they got like Maloney and Merz and van der Leyen and Macron, and they're all like sitting there hunched over, and Trump's giving them like a little lecture after the Alaska summit. Like, that's indicative of, I think, a very unfortunate trend of America making sure that Europe is sort of held back to an extent, and the sheer incompetence and frankly the sheer evil of certain European elites. Look at the current people now, Keir Starmer, and well, I mean, not in the EU, but I mean, like, European elites. You have people like Merz and van der Leyen, like very incredibly unserious people. And I think that for Canada to sort of say, well, those people in, those European Union people, they're like libs just like us, and they hate, they're increasingly skeptical of Americanization like we are. I think that there should be something more to a political alliance. Now, I think that when it comes to shared history and heritage, I mean, that's obviously a different story. But I wouldn't want to see Canada sort of trade away its own sense of purpose and sovereignty and self to even more corrupt and even more inept and frankly even more evil elites. Not to say that the Washington elites aren't evil, they definitely are. So Canada is stuck in a weird place. I mean, our elites are evil. Come on, it's just I think that there's. But anyways,
you have no disagreement from me here.
Yeah.
That's definitely the case. Although, I mean, at the same time, I think when it comes to what Trump wants to do for the war, right? Like he's at a particular crossroads where, like, he's campaigned on this. He would like to see some sort of peace or some sort of end to it. And Europe certainly doesn't want that to be the case. And they've got, I would argue, some pretty legitimate and valid reasons for that. So Trump is trying to pull out all the stops to sort of make this go in the way that he wants it to. And so I think that, that sort of push-pull between,
which is to sell arms to the Europeans and let the war continue.
Well, and to try and get, sort of wash their hands of it and just claim peace. Is that achievable? I don't think so with how things are currently going, but only time will tell, right? I know that all this is still in play. This is all still current events and news. So, but I mean, for the look, for the sort of MAGA aesthetic, right? Like the idea of getting those European style socialists to all sort of like to all sort of sit there like they're in line for the principal's office is certainly a look. that I think that the base is quite happy and content with, because
Well,
there is this like,
yeah,
I think it's sort of just a knee jerk antagonism that that most people don't really get, and which is truly unfortunate, because it's just like, well, actually, if we were to look at this more seriously, we would understand that there's a lot more in common here, or that our relationship is not as cut and dry on trade, or that we obviously have different goals and ends. But I mean, it's easier just to sell this far off antagonism, and that's how it's always been. I mean, even Bowden sort of talked about that when he visited the United States. Like, Americans in general are so far removed from the world by the size of our country.
Yeah.
I remember Bowden giving this. I think it's on H.P. Lovecraft. It's one of my all-time favorite talks he's ever given. And it's right after the election of Barack Obama. And Bowden talks about how, like, a man would get off of a plane after visiting Europe. He would come back, and I think he would land either in Oklahoma or somewhere else. And he would say, "Isn't it good to be back in the world?" The world, like that. I mean, like, America is such a vast place. In that regard. I mean, I can drive for hours and hours and hours, and I'm still not leaving the state of Texas. It takes me forever to get to a different state. And it just plays a role into it, unfortunately, in our own system. It allows us to be very narrow-minded. And even Mark Twain, all those years ago, was like, God invented war so Americans could learn geography, which becomes this terrible truth in a lot of ways. So,
well, it's like I noted this in my review. I think this was early this year or last year, my one episode of Content Minded, Transnational Progressivism Revisited, where that was sort of a main theme that even John Fonte was writing about during the Bush administration, right after 9/11, where it was always sort of the view of American conservatives in particular that Europe posed a significant, like, rivalry, or a sort of like progressive or socialistic elite globalism, if you will, that opposed American action and opposed the sort of life of action of, foreshadowing Hannah Arendt, sort of like the American.
I got a call, but keep going.
Yeah, the sort of like American life of action. And I think that America has always had this sort of very deeply ingrained distrust of the Europeans. And so you do see this in time again in their foreign policy, albeit an unconscious impulse, but nevertheless something that rings true, that even under Trump, I mean, it's very complicated, because definitely being more pro-European on the left looks very different from being more pro-European on the right when it comes to American domestic politics. But nevertheless, you do have this impulse to corral and to divide and subvert the Europeans. And I think that for a long time, whether it was the Soviet Union or whether it was, the Russian Federation now, I mean, that was always a huge sticking point to keep Europe within the sphere of American influence. And, I think that as time goes forward, if we are heading towards whatever you want to call it, multipolarity, or BRIC nations having more of a say, I was actually talking about this with my friend Marcus on Twitter. Europe definitely does need one major ally. Like, I definitely do think pushing Russia into the hands of the Asiatics powers is definitely a geopolitical blunder, but whatever. I'm just, I'm just a armchair commentator. But I do think that I don't know if I don't know if the Europeans would seek a better deal with the Chinese or with any other. That
certainly
power.
seems to be the case.
Yeah. Not to say that they're getting a fair deal with American elites either. So it's just, I feel very deeply for the American people. I'm sorry, I feel very deeply for the European peoples. I do not feel very deeply for their elites, by the way, but I just think that, there's going to be a lot of geopolitical tensions. Now, whether Europe can break free and create its re-envision itself as a power on the world stage like it once was, that could be a possibility. There are infrastructural issues when it comes to energy, armaments, and so on and so forth. I don't think the system of America just selling them arms and creating the CU army, I think that is definitely a possibility in the future. But in the short term, I don't know. I think that wasting immense amounts of material and even human capital to fight the war in Ukraine is, well, it's not a very good situation. I'll put it that way. And but I think that a lot of people sort of neglect the historical tensions between America and Europe because, America shares similar origins and a similar sort of life world to those of the Europeans, but yet in terms of the sort of political and cultural soul of America, there are vast differences. And I think that that's coming into the foreground once again. It seems to always come down, especially when there is war. I mean, this happened under the Bush administration. There were a lot of European nations that were very uncomfortable with the foreign policy dalliances of W. Bush and even his father. So, Reagan had no love for the Europeans. So it's I don't know what would a Democrat do? I mean, of course, like you would figure a Democrat would be more pro-European, but I mean, even Obama would give the Europeans the shaft from time to time as well. So I don't know. I don't know.
Well, there's certainly a balance. I mean, because there is the contextual history that the United States and European powers have not been buddy-buddy even in the pre-war era. I mean, there was to some extent, but not in the degree that, like, when it comes to, say, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, even the relationship between, like, Britain and the United States is not as cozy as we, like, sell ourselves in this, like, special relationship, quote unquote. Like, even that has been fraught with rivalry and sabotage and governments, like, changing their foreign policy in order to undermine or to have sort of a countervailing balance against the United States. I mean, Labor had a much more interesting policy towards the Soviets than the Tories did. Certain administrations had, differing views and vice versa. So, I mean, like, these are things that have to be contextualized. And when there is conflict or when there is a more domestic focus on an administration, then there's always going to be those tensions will always boil up to the front, and it's going to be very clear. And this president and this administration have definitely made that very public facing, and that's probably not going to go away even as time goes on, because if there's one thing that the Trump administration has done since being around and since Trump came down the elevator, has been sort of this weird sensation of, well, we don't know. The American system is not as robust as we thought, democratically speaking, because if this guy can get in here, then, like, what am I supposed to do? Just wait 4 years? Like, that's a long time on the grand scale of politics. Like, that's crazy to think about. And so, like, I remember very vividly, because, I mean, Trump got elected when I was in college. Like, I remember reading an article from The Economist magazine, and there were people who were working inside Angela Merkel's government that were just like, oh yeah, like, we just have to, like, oh, this is a fluke, like, whatever. And then clearly not, right? Like, this kind of pattern of politics is here to stay. And it's always been here. Like, again, to refer back to Frederick Jackson Turner's collection of essays on the frontier, like, the frontier impulse for democracy on a material basis and for political reasons has never gone away. It's come in waves as America has expanded. And the same thing now as America has closed off any kind of frontier for its own people at home. And so, like, it's not these impulses, like, it's like Pandora's box. This kind of impulsive populism isn't going to go away anytime soon, in my mind. And I think that is an important thing to consider when discussing politics going forth, especially as Trump probably gets... Someone made this tweet earlier today, and I'm so upset I didn't think of it myself, but, like, the 2028 election is the final episode of The Apprentice, because Trump gets to decide who's the Republican nominee, and he'll get to sit there and he'll say, and I guarantee you he will tweet out in, like, 4 years, you're fired, right before, like, the Republican primary or the Republican convention. But I mean, it's very strange also, but just because, like, America culturally is in this, like, absolute batshit crazy place, and they're like, well, see, the woke is going away. No, it's not. And it was like Josh on, that not Josh Neal, the other Josh, Kiwi Farms Josh, who was just
Joshua, like, gonna get you, Joshua Connor, man. Yeah,
but Joshua, I mean, like, even he was just this stuff ain't going away. And you can check out, all sorts of, like, cultural expressions from the youth. Like, these things aren't really disappearing. And that's going to be an intergenerational problem to go. And I mean, as Fustel de Coulanges has talked about in The Ancient City, and as others have talked about elsewhere when it comes to culture, it's like all it takes is like 3 generations, and something that is considered a change in culture virtually becomes irreversible. And we'll see how that gets played out, right? Because like the Roe v. Wade stuff is an interesting one to examine politically, because it's just like Roe v. Wade abortion was legalized in the United States in 1973. That was about 50 years ago and some change. And now we're seeing that kind of reversed. I mean, to a pre-Roe state, it's not like abortion is totally gone in the United States, but it's like 50 years is quite some time to have this cultural impact. And to a large extent, I think going back to the states has sort of settled this issue, because the pro-lifers, I think, have really shit the bed on their ability to organize politically. So, I mean, those are all my takes. I don't really have much for politics. I had a rant lined up.
You want to talk about the Newsom Imperium? No, it's stupid.
You mean like how Kamala's so brat, or Pokemon Go to the polls, or it's that boy? Like, no, I don't have much to say about it other than like,
I think people want, like, instinctively want like a blue Caesar. I think, to borrow my friend Apex's term, a blue Caesar is something that could potentially wrestle away the politics of the 2010s. But I
just think it's interesting.
You know, I'm going to remember this in a year.
It's a strange appeal to, like, I get it. I think Newsom is a potential Democratic frontrunner.
Oh, he's a huge potential Democrat.
Like, he's a huge potential, and I see what they're A/B testing. It feels like. I still think that it'll be some. I really do think that the Democrats. I think now, especially now that things have been so gerrymandered and in Texas and in other states.
Hunter's like, going to run.
Well, you know what?
His interviews are actually pretty good, I gotta say.
If Hunter Biden wants to run, it will be the first time that like a crack smoking pedophile runs honestly as himself.
Allegedly, we have to say that. Allegedly.
If I get Arkansas because I don't say the word allegedly, so be it. I'm taking the Clintons with me.
Well, hey, I mean, my favorite, apart from Mel Lastman, my favorite mayor of Toronto was obviously Rob Ford. And Rob
what
Ford
an animating force of Canadian politics.
Oh, man, I swear to God, if stomach cancer didn't take him out, I think that he would be the premier of Ontario. Well, I mean... nobody talks about the other part. I mean, the crack thing is like, you know, he talks about it openly, but nobody talks about the other cancelable thing. I think it's because it's
because even that issue isn't one that's been rehabilitated by certain parts of online politics.
No, but it's funny how like someone like Evan Loves Worf can just like go online and say like all Trump supporters are supporting a PDF file, and you know, the fundamental politics of like the far left in North America in 2025 is, you know, basically normalizing that. But you know, in a different way though. But that's the one thing I think I'll talk about when it comes to Gavin Newsom. Then we can move on because the whole thing is stupid. No one's gonna remember it in a few months.
I also find it interesting just because I think it's meant to appeal. I don't know where the appeal. Maybe because I just so
the appeal to aesthetics and politics. That's what I was going to talk about.
Well, yeah. I know where you're trying to transition this towards, so we can get to the Hannah Arendt article. But like, on one hand, I'm laughing at it because it's just like, isn't Gavin Newsom the epitome of all things that the current left has gone on? Because keep in mind,
and destroy.
This is a pivot. Like, this is an attempt to pivot and to withdraw the craziness. At least optically speaking, right? Because they're playing the game that Trump is playing with, like the memes and the optics, and it's so terribly coded that even Martin had made a point that like, oh, like these Gavin posters are physiognomy posting, you know, between a young JD Vance and a younger Gavin Newsom, and it's just like, okay, like fine, so be it. This is what we're doing. It feels kind of dumb and a waste of my time, and at the same time, I'm like kind of just bewildered because it's like, well, we saw right after the election, and keep in mind, Trump's been in office for like almost 7 months. It'll be 7 months as of tomorrow, and it's like we saw in the reaction to the election last year, everyone saying like, actually, we should let all these crazies double down. We should have let a million Jasmine Crockett's
dark
bloom.
woke.
Dark woke, dark Biden, all that. And keep in mind, I say this all at the end of the day, all this is the shit you see on Twitter. I don't know what the average Democratic voter wants or thinks.
They probably would vote for Newsom.
They probably would vote
for
Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
Why? Because he seems to be a competent governor who, at least in quotations, competent, and is willing to have the experience in a way where he's young. He seems attractive, and like he's got it made. Like this is the guy.
Well, why did they vote for Carney here in Canada? Because he looked way more competent than Trudeau. I mean, he's Trudeau light, but like it's he looks the part, Well,
that's the important thing is that you look the part.
Yeah. But that's the thing, though. And so this, I'm not going to name names, but you can guess. This is a value-neutral analysis, okay? I know I got memed on for saying that, but value-neutral analysis. I see our good friend Shane Swanson's in the chat.
Howdy, Shane.
And please, sneed those super chats. He sneed the super chat. A man, listen, that guy, he's got a wife and kids. He has to travel all over the country to restore various Orthodox Church iconography. If he can find the time out of his day to sneed super chats, you too can sneed super chats. That's terrible. I feel dirty. What a show I've been listening to recently has been Rune Soup. The guy's actually really good. And he's got like this way of like weaving together ads for his own products. Like he does courses on like tarot and ancient mythology and reading runes and but he'll like seamlessly weave in the bit of advertising his courses. It's like very funny. And I got to perfect this script, okay? Patreon.com/Sharon Productions, Substack.com/US Content Corner. So value neutral analysis, okay? There's a legitimate criticism to be made of certain factions of the online right, which is that when it comes to like this thing about physiognomy posting and aesthetics and aesthetic truth, which, as I've written about and I've talked about before, does mean something. It's actually something that we're going to talk about with this article about Hannah Arendt's work tonight, the intersection between aesthetics, art, and politics. But I think the problem is that if you do make that a criterion, okay, and then all of a sudden you do have someone on the left who is, relatively handsome. I mean, arguably handsomer when he was younger than J.D. Vance and whatever. Then I do think that there's a valid criticism to be made that you can't really have your cake and eat it too. I mean, people do all the time. It's politics. I mean, hypocrisy in politics means nothing. But at the same time, I do think that both sides. I know I'm doing the both sides thing. But it's let's be real here. The one side is confused in the sense of trying to resurrect their form of like, okay, aesthetic truth and aesthetic politics, and objectively, J.D. Vance. Wanted to compare him to Newsom's family. It's very funny how like people on the political left are like doing like doing basic, like racist
white
physiognomy check,
visual optics checking,
right? But I do think that the confusion though on the left is equally as impactful as certain people on the right that are sort of like going apoplectic, to quote Millennial Woes, going apoplectic over this Gavin Newsom physiognomy check thing. People on the left are confused, as you said, by supporting a guy that has the visual aesthetics of everything that they hate. Absolutely. But also, I mean, let's be real. Gavin Newsom, he
knows how to play the field. I mean,
he knows how to play the field.
He's the governor of a minority majority state.
Yes. And he's very, all the leftist policy positions are there. And so I don't think it's that hypocritical for leftists to support him, because if he were to be made president, then, you're going to get like
he would get on steroids. The border would be back open and they would get everything that they want.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's not really hypocrisy. But I do think that the political right, there are different reasons there's a lot of legitimate criticism towards Gavin Newsom, but in the sort of like aesthetics of politics, I do think that there is an edge there. He does seem like a return to a particularly like Gen X, guy that wears like a Planned Parenthood shirt at a rally, like what the irony cells want to be, which is like Gen X hipsters.
Yeah.
And it's like they're cool and they swear and they're like,
they want the dirtbag left back so bad.
Exactly. But the dirtbag left is living in the shadow of the Gen Xers, right? Even though, a lot of them are pushing 40 themselves as aging millennials.
Well, that would be millennials.
Yeah. And so but that's what I mean. Like the millennial irony cells, they love that Gen X culture type of stuff,
Yeah.
So I do think that there is obviously valid criticism of certain factions of the E-right, but at the same time, I think that leftists are fundamentally confused as well in terms of how their message can come across. And I think if Gavin Newsom were to be a legitimate contender in 2 or 3 years, then you will have leftist voices trying to out leftist each other by saying, why are we supporting an old white guy? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's sort of like I was talking about today with Burden, with Aaron Bushnell, where, you had like people actually in the third world, they actually loved him. They still have murals and stuff about him that they painted. But then you have Western leftists who are like, why are we supporting this white guy? It's like, okay, are you going to go there and reenact the Vietnam War protest? The one in the Rage Against the Machines cover? It's like, no, you're not going to do that. Aaron Bushnell did, but you didn't. So, and you're criticizing him because he's a white guy. So I think that there are going to be a lot of contradictions going forward. I don't think that the seamless transition to Gavin Newsom, whether it's certain factions of the right that support him for whatever reason, or whether it's the left as a whole. I mean, 3 years is an eternity, especially, in the Trump or now increasingly post-Trump era. 3 years is an eternity in politics.
And God only knows what'll happen to California in the next 3 years that could cause national scandal or whatever. I mean,
and who knows if it's going to be JD Vance on the right? Maybe it's going to be some dark horse that Trump picks. Who knows? Well,
Trump has made it clear, at least for now, that Vance is heir apparent, and I think that for at least Republican style politics, that would be an improvement compared to, say, what we've had. Remember, just a few election cycles ago, your options were like Rick Santorum, Bobby Jindal, and Scott Walker.
Bobby Jindal,
the one good assimilated Indian, and even then, right, just a governor of a very southern state that I don't think most people really pay attention to. And even then, I don't know what he does anymore.
There was that one post that said Gavin Newsom in high school was the bully that you hated. And it's like, that's not going to work. That's no, people want to.
I just find that because in the context of everything being made fun of these days, it's just it's so bad, or it's so sad. This is the bully, and it's just don't you people isn't your whole thing, your whole shtick that you got bullied in high school that? This is the shtick, right?
That's gonna turn off Chapo Trap House. They're gonna turn that off. They're gonna be like, we're the bullies now, bullying you, chud, right wing incel. That was another thing. It's funny, Prude. A little quick rant before we get to the article. Out of curiosity, and also because it was free on my favorite movie site, the one, right?
Of course.
Tubi. I actually watched the Lords of Chaos film. It was a burning piece of garbage. It was terrible. Okay. Now, Macaulay Culkin's younger brother actually did do a pretty good job acting, but the whole story was basically just it was Vice Media, because it was produced by Vice.
Of course.
It was designed to get under Varg's skin. That's the whole reason. They made Varg out to be this kind of pudgy, creepy incel, true diehard fanatic, which I mean he was, but have you looked at in the actor that they chose to play Varg? Terrible. Have you okay, go right now while you're listening. Search Varg Vickers young. When he was put on trial in 93, he was a heartthrob. He looked like Griffith from Berserk. He was a beautiful boy. He was cute. I shouldn't say that about another man, but whatever, I don't care. I'm secure with my own actuality. I don't care. He was cute, okay? He was a heartthrob. He that smile, those big blue eyes, that scar in his chin he got from an Afghani when he lived there for 3 years. It's like Varg was handsome, and they casted this like guy that looked nothing like Varg. And the whole thing about like Varg just like randomly redacted Euronymous, and Euronymous was the hero. Nobody liked Euronymous, okay? Nobody, not even Fenris from Darkthrone liked Euronymous, okay? Was Fenris from Darkthrone? Yeah. Like nobody liked Euronymous, okay? And the whole thing that Varg was like this paranoid schizo incel that like just randomly decided to redact his friend. And then like the whole sequence was off. Like it didn't even show that Euronymous went through a plate glass window. It was stupid. It was the whole film. I'm not even going to make a full review of it. It's stupid. And Euronymous was screwing over Varg financially, and it was just like, it was a disaster. It was a disaster. But you know what's the beautiful part of it? Is that Mayhem is still going. I think it has maybe 2 or 1 of the original members. So Mayhem, Darkthrone, and of course Burzum with Varg Vikernes, they all told Vice to go screw themselves. So they couldn't use any of the original music from that era. They couldn't use any of the black metal songs. Like they couldn't use songs off the Reign of the Dark Hearts, or I think that what was the album called. They couldn't use any of the original Burzum songs from Philosophum or other albums, and it was a disaster. It was terrible. So I don't know. I just had to get that off my chest. It was a terrible film. It was 2 hours too long. But anyways, the point being aesthetic truth. Yeah. Hellhammer was a great drummer. That is true, Richard Crook. Yeah.
I feel like let's just go to the article because we're like 45 minutes in. I have a rant, but I think I'm just gonna record it and save it instead.
What's the rant about?
I watched the King of the Hill reboot season or sequel.
Oh, did you watch the Spum Donor review of it?
No, I was going to make my own review of it, but like,
yeah, it's pretty good.
I'll take your word for it.
No, King of the Hill was terrible. The remake was terrible. I mean, the Spum Donor review was pretty good.
Oh no, I'm sure it was. Is what I'm saying. What it was just so. It was so. Well, there was.
Charlie,
I have to laugh because I have to laugh just because it. As soon because I saw I heard about the reboot and I said it's going to be terrible. And then I watched, and then I saw all these little news bits, and of course Johnny Hardwick died, and then the voice actor for John Redcorn died just shortly before this all came out.
No, Namu, this is not pre-recorded, so super.
No, this is all live. This is all live right now. You wouldn't hear this in post.
That was like that Cannibal Corpse live album called Live Cannibalism. That was great. Delicious. Anyways, go.
And as soon as I saw and everyone else saw it too, it was like that article where it was like Okani is like ethnically non-monogamous. I literally walked over to my roommate and I said, they're going to make Bobby a cuck, aren't they? And boy, oh boy, did I call it. Man was one-shotted by one-nitis syndrome, and it bit him in the ass.
Didn't he go with like some vegan chick?
He did for a while, and she shat on Jerry Jones's desk. It was fun. It was
what?
Fun. I'm gonna, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna record a review. I'm gonna give my thoughts. Because I'm currently rewatching with my gal, the all of King of the Hill because it's a comfort show. And I associated nostalgically with my grandparents' house because like she lives in the middle of nowhere, Texas. I live in the middle of nowhere, Texas, and like King of the Hill is kind of like part documentary, part like spoofing of like life that my grandparents, my extended family lived. And so it's kind of just wild to watch on one hand, these sort of pieces of life that, and I would always watch it because I would visit my grandparents, and whenever we stayed, it was like, Jeopardy. It was like Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, local news, one stupid crime drama show like NCIS or CSI when it's still on the air, and then, or I guess CSI is still running, or did it finally die? I know they had.
I think there's some kind of spin-off.
Oh, good God. And then it would finally go to 2 episodes back to back of King of the Hill when it was still, really had it when it was syndicated and things like that. So it's just like, it's nice to go back to that. It's a comfort show. And I think Mike Judge is, for all of his problems, is still a really good writer and comedian. And so now I'm watching this and I'm just like, oh,
yeah.
So I'll just record my thoughts. I had a rant prepared, but I think let's just get to the article that way.
Wait, Namu Zed, did we miss a super chat last time we were on air?
Did we?
I think someone sent me buy me a coffee that
I'll have to check.
Yeah. I'm very sorry if we did miss one.
We tried very hard never to let that happen.
We always read the super chats at the end.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think he sent it on whatchamacalled? Oh my no! Oh my god! Oh no! Oh my god, Prude!
What?
This super chat. You're gonna love this one.
Oh no! Is this on a different platform?
This is on Entropy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can't read.
It's a sizable one, but he only sent it to me. So if you wanted dibs on it, I'll give you some money.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, so apparently I have to review WALL-E now.
Oh, like the Disney like the Pixar movie WALL-E?
Did Devin Stack review WALL-E?
I think Endeavor. Well,
or was it Morgoth? It was like the most.
I think it was Endeavor. Or someone on this side of things.
I think it was Endeavor.
Hold on, because I remember WALL-E.
Wow.
Literally, I remember the title being like, someone had said, I remember someone on the right saying that like WALL-E is an incredibly reactionary film. And I don't remember who said that. And I'm like, maybe that was like Owen Cyclops. I could be wrong. I don't remember. These are the things that escape my mind. But like, fine, go review WALL-E. Have fun with that one. I think that is probably one of the Pixar films that has only aged better with time. Because environmentalism has become somewhat become right-coded these days.
I think I watched it with my mother like almost 10 years ago. I'm still waiting for someone to pay me for this.
You want to feel old?
Yeah.
10 years ago was 2015.
Whoa! I agree with that.
Decade of Trumpian politics.
Well, the goal of the thing is for the 28 franchise review, but actually, I think this week I'm coming out with an article.
You're coming out?
Yeah. Yes. I'm coming out with an article because I've been reading a lot of Norman Mailer lately. But I definitely do want to come out with the Warhammer 40K episode with my friend Paz, and this week or maybe next week. Or next week I wanted to come out with the Burden version of the House of Leaves series. But we'll see what happens if I'm, I'm sufficiently unencumbered this week, so I can get a lot of work done. It's an amazing article I've written. It's the best. So I drew this cover image for it. So I have here, you can see that Norman Mailer, Vincent Gallo.
I saw you post that. It looks very good.
And Chris Chan. Okay, think of this for a moment. Norman Mailer, Vincent Gallo, and Christine Weston Chandler. But this is one of my favorite photos of Chris Chan when he was. It's one of the most
beautiful boy.
It was one of the most aesthetic photos I've ever seen in my life. It was 3 Japanese men holding a baby, and Chris Chan was like sort of just in the background, looking super depressed. It was an amazing photo, and I just had to draw it. Like that's my favorite Chris Chan photo. It's so aesthetic. It's Anyways, let's move on. It's a look, yeah. Oh man. But anyways, let's move on. Speaking of aesthetics and politics, we are reviewing an article about Hannah Arendt discussing politics and aesthetics. And so this is called The Role of Aesthetics in the Politics of Hannah Arendt. And let me go to the Jumbotron, the Titantron. Oh, what did I do? Cancel. I did something. Press or invite. Where is the new layout?
It's the TV screen thing at the bottom.
Oh, it's in the bottom now. Okay, share
your
screen.
mic, your camera, and then
yeah.
There you go.
the Titantron. Here we go. It's actually a free article on philosophy papers. So it's by Karen Fry. Is that the one that I sent you, Prude?
I think so.
Because there was 2 of them.
Either which way, I will be.
It's this one. Yeah, it's this one.
I'll be reading them for the first time.
All right. So
this is a live Prude reaction.
All right. Hannah Arendt's work is often interpreted as promoting an aesthetic form of politics. For Arendt, political action discloses who someone is in words and deeds and reveals her unique character. Because political actions disclose the uniqueness of the individual actor, Arendt's politics seem to advocate the artistic expression of the political actors as the primary purpose of politics. Now, one thing I would say is that, you know, a lot of people, they would poo-paw Hannah Arendt as like, well, at the end of the day, she was like a very liberal thinker, but there is a huge amount of depth and nuance to Hannah Arendt's work, and her influences from Martin Heidegger and so on and so forth is very pertinent, I think, for challenging conventional wisdom when it comes to contemporary political philosophy, especially in academic political philosophy. So I think that her work is certainly valid of critique and exploration, and her essays in general are quite good. I mean, her full works as well. Life of the Mind is a very challenging work to read, but is, pretty good nevertheless. I mean, she's carrying on, as we will see, a uniquely Kantian tradition, but she does make room for a lot of Heideggerian observations as well. Uniqueness of the individual actor. Arendt's politics seem to advocate the artistic expression of the political actors as the primary purpose for politics. Politics would be like a work of art, something that Walter Benjamin said, in which a few political actors express themselves to an audience of spectators who view their artistic works. Politics becomes an expressive art for the benefit, distinction, and fame of certain individuals rather than focusing on the needs of the community as a whole. Arendt's discussion of political judgment provides further evidence for an aesthetic interpretation of her work. For Arendt, political actions are judged by a community through the use of reflective judgments of taste that are similar to Kantian aesthetic judgments. The term taste is most often used to relate to art objects, so politics is assumed to be aesthetic for Arendt, given her model of judgment based upon Kant's theory of taste. Overall, Arendt has received both criticism and praise for the perception of her politics as a type of artistic display. Now, really quickly, to understand that, the Spectator, as this article will touch on later, is fundamentally important to Arendt's work because the Spectator, while not being an active participant, because there's a fundamental bifurcation in Hannah Arendt's political philosophy. The life of the mind, the life of mental activity, and the life of action, which she has a very nuanced distinction between. So even though a spectator to Arendt, and this is actually something that Byung-Chul Han talks about as well in Psychopolitics, I think, or I even think in The Disappearance of Rituals, I forget. The spectator is very important because even though the spectator is not a political actor, the spectator's view and perceptions of reality are the area from which political actions manifest. The spectator sits in judgment of politics, the way that a spectator would sit in judgment of a work of art, and the perception or the mood or whatever you want to call it, the vibe, if you will, is fundamentally in the hands of the spectator, even though the spectator is not a direct political actor. But as we'll see in Arendt, that's actually a benefit because the spectator can hover above the area of political action and can operate in a way that is free of the considerations of someone who is putting on the spectacle, namely those political actors themselves. And so the spectators are very important. And I think that Hannah Arendt, in a lot of ways, like certain thinkers like McLuhan and other ones, were almost in some ways preempting the internet age. Because politics in the internet age, as we were saying at the beginning of the show, is just as aesthetic as anything else, is in fact hyper-aesthetical, and is ultimately the realm of perceptions rather than direct political actions. And in fact, both of them feed into each other. So we've sort of become a world of the spectator, where we can sit here and sit upon judgments of what is happening in the world more than ever before. in a way that is different but not altogether dissimilar from the world of the 20th century mass media that Hannah Arendt was writing in, or in 19th to 20th century. Whereas nowadays, I mean, we feel this reality in our bones, that we are the spectator, that we are sitting in judgment constantly of political ephemera. So, if you had any thoughts about
that, we're not only just spectator, and you are right. It's in Byung-Chul Han's Disappearance of Rituals, because the ritual requires he writes that the ritual requires spectator just as much as it requires a participant. Yeah. But like we sit in judgment, but also maybe also just to borrow a little bit from what's the word I'm looking for? God, what's the name of the book? It's gonna kill me. Hold on. I'm literally.
Which book?
Where is it? There we go. It's Capitalism and Schizophrenia. I'm thinking about Anti-Oedipus is what I'm thinking of.
Oh,
yeah. We have this desire for. We're desiring machines. Ergo, we have this desire to produce. And so like everyone's a producer now, but we're simultaneously all spectators. And that shapes who we are politically, because now whatever fancies our tastes or whatever we find to be most appealing, right? Our politics now becomes reflective of that. And I don't know if it was Leo Caceres on Twitter or someone else who had said, if you like something, you are going to shape your politics or your views to be in congruency or in agreement with mine. Or if you don't like what I have to say, you will come up with a picture or a point or a target or a word to scapegoat and to disregard anything that I say as the enemy, as bad, as coal, or whatever. And that plays very true to how you and I participate politically, or how most of us do, especially online, is that there's a look to things. It's not just when we say optics, we don't just mean about our words or Fed posting or whatever, things like that. Like that plays a role into it. Yeah. And clearly, like there's a certain aesthetic about being uncouth or unclean. But also at the same time, I mean, like if there's anything that proves this point, and proves to reiterate what Gio is saying, like the 2010s aesthetics of politics, from vaporwave to fash wave edits to even the more anime girl edits, from everything about like supporting Lockheed Martin all the way to trying
the theory of the young girl.
Yeah, right. Like all these things are there. Even lane edits are used all the time on both the left and the right to describe this sort of like there's a lot more transgenderism on the left when it comes to Lane than say on the right, where it's more like this like Landy and schizo stuff. But like,
did you see that queer theory article using early Nick Land?
I did. That? And Land was like, funny. What the hell?
I disavow all of my former work. Yeah.
Many such cases. So true, Dr. Land.
I would expire a happy man if I could interview Nick Land, I gotta say.
From what Oren has told me, you need to plan it out like a year in advance.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to convince him to actually explore some of his earlier work. That would be my thing. I wouldn't want to listen, Nick, I don't want the political hot takes. I want to do something exciting. Let's review Meltdown together. But anyways,
let's talk about George Bataille, like the good old days.
Oh my God, yeah. Can you imagine that if we got him to review Thirst for Annihilation again? Oh man,
it would be fun. But no, so far so good. I'm in total agreement with the article and what you've been saying.
Well, I think also you have to realize that the infrastructure is obviously Kant's critique of judgment, which I mean we don't have time to get into here, but definitely trying to find a form of rationality when it comes to aesthetic judgments that aren't just a matter of collective taste, but are purely disinterested and have a logic to it that is motivated by rationality and by the faculties of reason. That I think a lot of people in political science and political theory have obviously used Kant's third critique of, is the third critique of judgment first? I forget. Yeah. Have obviously used Kant's critique of judgment when it comes to political actors in general. And there's always been this sort of kissing cousins relationship between the work of art and the particular gist or epoch that work of art finds itself in politically and socioculturally. So Hannah Arendt makes this very explicit in her work. And so I think this is why this essay in particular breaks it down very well. So politics of artistically, however, the relation between aesthetics and politics in Hannah Arendt's thought is complicated, and she was very careful not to conflate the two. In this essay, I argue that Arendt does not aestheticize politics or believe that the political actions should be interpreted through aesthetic categories. First, this view would violate her distinction between the activities of action and work. And secondly, this interpretation would ignore her assertion that the spectators who judge are more important than political actors. I disagree with that. I mean, this article was written fairly, I think 2009, or I forget. I think in the internet age, definitely the spectator, maybe not as more important than political actors, because there definitely is something to be said about the whole like capitalist realism thing or elite theory, you know. But I do think that the role of the spectator in the internet age has received a new salience and a new vitality and a new relevance. The way that the mass media in the late 20th century that McLuhan was talking about simply did not. Because it was very simple, like one-way mechanism, right? Broadcasting. Whereas now, in the age of broadcasting yourself, in the age of replying to the creator and to political actors themselves, even if those political actors are being mediated by, people that are handlers or interns, like the two Hispanic women that run the Gavin Newsom account, where they're like replying to somebody saying, that sounds woke. It's like, that's a total retread. That's a total still meme that was on 4chan 10 years ago. But nevertheless, I think that the ability of political actors to wade into the discourse like they've never been before, apart from, like, I would say in the 17th century, in the 19th or 18th century, where a lot of political actors, they definitely were men of letters. And so they were aware of criticism, they were aware of intellectual discourse, frankly, in ways that modern politicians and political actors simply aren't, because they're too dumb or they're a bunch of lackeys or whatever. But I do think that in a lot of ways, the spectator has become an absolute disaster for a lot of political actors. And I think, the 21st century has borne this out. So, yeah.
Yeah, not only that, I think it's also important to consider that we have shifted this valuation of the spectator onto ourselves, because we're all these now like take sellers or these production machines with respects to content. Like everyone is a content creator. And so by that extension, what are we now dealing with other than the overemphasis or the overvalue of the audience member? Like, for instance, it's sort of this, it's a cheesy take, I think, that some people kind of overvalue, or perhaps they don't appreciate enough, is the simple fact that it's like, can you imagine, I mean, take the number of people that are watching us right now, or the average number of thousands of views that this gets. To the average person, to be heard by that many people in any other point in time in human history is unfathomable to think about, right?
Right.
And I mean, even now it's unfathomable that we have the audience that we do, or the Twitter followers that we do. Like, that's still an insane thing to consider. And I think that that's something that we should really keep in the back of our heads here. And even for people that are striving to get better analytics, or we talked about agents at the beginning, right? Like, all of a sudden now there's this renewed emphasis on the spectator, or wanting to be seen with that degree of importance. And I think that that's a very important thing to consider politically, because at the end of the day, you don't have to be a man of letters anymore. And to take more from McLuhan, right? Like, we've definitely orientalized in the way that we communicate. Like, we engage in a far more gesture, sing-songy kind of voice with regards to how we transmit virtue or how we transmit ideas. We're far more pictographic. I mean, the memes and so on, like the Giga Chat dialogue or whatever, like, that's clearly an evolved, and you could say even devolved form of communication, that we simply we exist in a totally different world that we just don't have anymore. Well, and that's a crazy thing to consider in the backdrop of this, about what we deem to be important.
Well, even a writer in the world before mass media could potentially reach, in the age of mass literacy, could potentially reach 10,000, hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions. But in the same time, the writer, I think, slips into a form of imperceptibility, because you could do an intellectual exercise of contemplating the people that are reading your works, but I don't think that there was a directness to the audience towards the writer. And I mean, the writers did get letters. They exchanged hundreds of letters. This is what Norman Mailer was talking about when he was roasting Gore Vidal. Writers before Hemingway in America had an incredible literary tradition. Even before and during Hemingway, they were men of letters. They wrote letters, and they were literate, and they had a sense of the culture, but it was still something that was very one-dimensional relative to mass media, right? And I think like the one point I would say about that famous debate in the Dick Cavett show was Gore Vidal was correct when Norman Mailer said, he goes, Gore, why don't you just talk to me? I was a human being, as a friend. Why don't you just talk to me, right? But in the age of, at that time, the 70s of mass media, Gore Vidal looks around and he says, well, Norman, I would talk to you, but we don't find ourselves in a local friendly bar, but rather we're in front of a live audience at our own voluntary discretion. We voluntarily come onto a show in front of a live audience, in front of hundreds of people in the audience, well, a few hundred, and in front of millions of people watching the Dick Cavett show at home. So that creates a different dimension to the man of letters as opposed to nowadays. I mean, could you even have, there certainly are people that try. There are people that have online discourse, but could we have a man of letters, or could we have an artist in the same way in the age of the internet? Could we even have a political actor that is a statesman who is a man of letters? When was the last time you could think of like a hyper literate scholar politician? Was it Obama?
His team maybe, but even
his
then,
team. He was like the editor of the Harvard Law Review, I guess. But
the other thing in that whole,
I don't know. Richard Nixon probably. That would.
Well, Nixon for sure. But like also at the end of the day, post television, that really stops mattering.
Yeah. They say Bill Clinton was pretty smart, though.
I potentially, but I mean, like, also, what do we mean by a man of letters in the sense today? Like, no one is a man of letters in the Carlylean sense of what he means when he talks about heroes, right? Like, right. Or even what Burke describes as a man of letters. Like that old English concept of being a man of letters fundamentally does just not exist anymore in the 21st century. And if he does exist, I don't know him, and I would love to know him. And maybe I'm terrified to know him because he might just be like a huge libtard, but like, I would at least like to know him, and see what that looks like, because for most of us, that is shadow.
When was the last true mystic? I would argue maybe Yeats was probably the last true mystic.
In terms of like poetry?
Not just but a genuine mysticism. I think Yeats is a contender, maybe Trungpa, maybe, I don't know. Who knows, right? Maybe Swami Chimayandanda. Who knows? Like, there, Swami Dai, Adi Dai. Like, who knows? I mean, but in terms of the world of poetry, I mean, Yeats is probably was the last mystical poet. Could you think? I don't know. Some people like to say that Allen Ginsberg came close, but I don't think you could compare Yeats to Ginsberg.
I don't think you could.
Robert Anton Wilson. No, there you go. That's a good one, Tree Surgeon. That's actually a pretty good one. The last mystical poet writer would probably be Robert Anton Wilson. But we've lost so many things, Prue. We've lost public intellectuals. The 70s were really the last reign of the public intellectual. Can we name a public intellectual now? I mean,
well, we could. We would just...
but they're not even
the quality of a public intellectual has gone down.
Yeah.
And that's just an admitted basic fact, right? Like everyone knows that a public intellectual these days really is just someone who is there for the purposes of selling something or enforcing an ideology. Like, I mean, we don't, and even then you could say, well, that's always been the case. And I would argue that that's certainly true, but the quality has certainly declined right? I mean that, and we're also not debating issues. What's socially acceptable to be debated feels so just asinine,
What,
like
Jordan Peterson was the last Republican?
I mean, that's a terrifying thing to consider.
That's
that might just potentially be it. Like your last public intellectual is Jordan Peterson. Like that's a terrifying conclusion to come to, right? Like that's scary as hell.
Maybe Zizek, I don't know.
Maybe Zizek. I don't know.
Yeah, but see, Chomsky is so old. He's a creature of the 20th century. He's not a creature of the 21st.
I mean, you could. I don't know if you can call him a public intellectual, but I mean,
he was. Yeah. He
no. I'm saying like Byung-Chul Han, like that.
Oh no! Yeah, there you go.
He's certainly a philosopher.
Probably.
He is certainly something.
Z-Man, God rest his soul. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you have public intellectuals. They're just not allowed to functionally exist as public intellectuals anymore because they all retreat. And I mean that could be just me blowing smoke up. I'm not calling myself a public intellectual. I am just a raucous moron who has opinions. I'm not trained in any classical sense of the word. I'm not a man of letters or anything like that. Could I be? Maybe if I were to go back to school and maybe be an autodidact and things like that. But even then, that sounds like a life maybe I've missed out on. Who knows? It's never too late. But yeah, like even then, right? But like this is another thing too. Like in the backdrop of like Conan O'Brien had said this, and I only know because like I'll open up my browser at work and it'll show like the front page with like local news or whatever, and all this little like MSN news stories, and it's just like Conan O'Brien says like late night television as we know it is going to disappear, and it's like, well, yeah, no shit,
we don't need it.
But he's right. It's disappearing because there's no common culture anymore. Right. And one of the things that I think is really important to consider in that regard is that culture becomes this either like highly factionalized online thing, which makes politics even more crazy to consider that like it becomes more what's the word I'm looking for? It is so reduced to lowest common denominator standards. So like there's no real court, like there's no single issue stuff anymore. And the left has an advantage on this because like the true advantage that the left has on this is like it doesn't matter if you're a single issue voter or you're in this like broad spectrum coalition that demands your attention on all things. And as it will be, right? Like that's just the case. And the right not so much. And I mean like it's sort of now been united on the basis of immigration, which I think is great.
Well, but say what you will about, and for the record, like, Buckley was incredibly evil in the way that he subverted the American right, obviously, but I think that when you do actually watch old episodes of Firing Line,
no, there is an intellectualism there.
Exactly. I mean, you're not going to get that level of, I mean, you'll get it in certain pockets in the internet. Maybe you'll even get it here, but like that level of intellectual discourse for public consumption on a mass televised network scale, you're never going to get that ever again. And to say that because these dinosaurs of late night are retiring or being let go because they're losing millions of dollars, it's like, well, what did you expect? Like I had this rant I did actually on cultural memory in the internet, but I ended up talking a little bit about that Howard Stern clip. It's like, well, if you're like an edgy irony dirtbag leftist, like why would you need Stephen Colbert and Howard Stern when you have Hassan Piker or Chapo Trap House or like any upteenth podcaster truing on with Bryce Belden, whatever his name is? Like, why would you need these dinosaurs in an old dying medium? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, when truckers stopped listening to Howard Stern in the 2010s, it was over. I would argue it was over when Artie Lang left, but it's like, it doesn't need, like, do you need a shock jock when you have, do you need the whack pack when you have like any upteenth lol cow you can follow on the internet every single day? When you have Kiwi Farms, you don't need the whack pack. The whack pack is Kiwi Farms, or whoever, like, or lol cow or farm, or like any like, YouTuber that categorizes lol cows like Turkey Tom or these other like people on YouTube. Like, why would you need Howard Stern to bring on Elliot Offen when you could just go to the quickie? It's, Anyways,
no, I think that's an important point out of all of this, right? Is that because things have become so fractured, those things are dead, and so, and also like there was again the comment, like what I was going to say just a minute ago was like the last time that there was anything that you could say with any constitutive like for sureness with certainty is like 2019. That was the year Game of Thrones died, and that was the year the Avengers basically ends, right? Like the MCU ends with Endgame, right? And everything else has been shit since. And they'll, no matter how much nostalgic knee-jerking you're going to do with Spider-Man, like it ain't going to work for me. There's only one Spider-Man, and that was, Tobey Maguire. That's also
it worked for me, brother.
It worked for me, brother. Did your husband make that for you? Like, damn, Rami, you can get away with a lot of things in 2001. But like,
I forgot Randy Savage was in Spider-Man.
Yeah,
that was great.
But it comes to show, right? Like we're in something now where it's like, okay, none of that gets to exist anymore because I can watch whatever, or everything has become so hyper politicized that like, well, there's no reason to win things over too. Like, there's no business sense. Like, there's not the whole Michael Jordan like Republicans buy shoes too or whatever. Like that's just gone. And for better and for worse, and it's certainly dead. And now because it's dead, everything is just like, well, I like this, or we're doing this because like it pisses off the chuds, da 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 da. Or even with this recent Superman film, which didn't watch, don't plan on watching. I just remember James Gunn being like, "This is about immigrants, and if you don't like it, da, 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 and it's just like, okay, so we've poisoned the well for the explicit purpose to make sure that like you have the correct opinion on something, right? And it's like, okay, cool, like this is where we're at, and that's fine. But like it just, again, right, this is where we're at. It's not going away anytime soon, and these old things, you don't need to sell me shit anymore. Like that was the point of late night television, was that we would invite an actor and actress on, pre-screen the interview, have the interview come on, we're
have the band come on and play a song,
have the band play a song, and then all of a sudden we're going to sell a new movie that comes out next week. We're going to sell out a new TV show premiering on ABC at like 8, 9 Central. We're premiering another late show. Remember, David Letterman got to start that way after being a stand-up comic and going out and doing things. And we're going to create this empire where we're constantly interviewing celebrities, doing spectacle. We're doing stuff to sell you on the latest shit that's going to be on the network, and it sells itself and it makes its money back. And now that doesn't exist anymore because no one watches television, no one watches late night, and the giants that held late night, whether it's Dick Cavett or Johnny Carson, or to early Letterman, like that's all dead. That's all gone. No one gives a shit about that. And you can't recreate that because the way to be successful on the internet nowadays means you have to be globalized, you have to be dumb, you have to appeal to the lowest common denominator, or you have to have a really good shtick. And it's really hard to find these days because there's no commonality, because we've all been dispossessed, we've all been forced to deal with each other, and we don't like each other. Familiarity breeds contempt. And so our politics have now been reduced to the most basic elements of all politics, which is what's in it for me, and are you going to support me because you look like me?
Yeah.
And that's the reduction of all politics now aesthetically, and it's very ugly in that regard.
When you really think about it, though, like it was really weird that the height of Letterman in the mid 90s or the early 90s, like you have like in culture, you have like some middle-aged or older man trying to like sell the youth on what's hip and cool. Like I remember when I was younger, I watched, I think it was around Christmas, where Nirvana did Smells Like Teen Spirit on the Letterman show. And like one Christmas, was it 91 or 92? I forget. Kurt Cobain had the cardigan, the gray cardigan, but I'm like, I remember looking at it years later and I'm like, well,
who is this for?
Like, who is this for? Like this old man is telling you what's hip and cool. It's like, and now we have Nirvana doing their hit single, Smells Like Teen Spirit. And it's like, I think like maybe people, even at the height of like Gen X nihilism, maybe people like still weren't sufficiently cynical. Like I remember like some of the stupid stuff. Like, do you remember when, oh, you're going to love this reference, Prude. Do you remember when, was it like Stephen Colbert? He got into that spat with a guitarist from the Decemberists, and he got like Peter Frampton on because he like faked a hand injury, and you got Peter Frampton to do a guitar solo against the guitarist from the Decemberists. Like, I don't know why I ended up watching that episode of the Colbert Show back in the day, but it's like, look at John Carter, middle-aged man trying to tell you kids what's cool. That's you now, Gio. Oh my god, is 32 middle-aged? I mean,
no,
maybe. God, no, but anyways, let's move on. That's a very interesting contrast. Although
it begs a very interesting question, doesn't it?
Yeah, pop culture being sold to you. Although there are some points of commonality between politics and aesthetics in Hannah Arendt's project, she remains suspicious of the attempts to anesthetize or romanticize politics, even at the level of judgment. Arendt's account of action in the human condition is the initial source of the difficulty in interpreting the relation between aesthetics and politics in her thought. In the work, she distinctively divides the activities of labor, work, and action. Labor is a human activity concerned with the cyclical and repetitive biological needs of human life, which must be renewed continuously. Work, in contrast to labor, builds more permanent fabricated structures that begins to separate persons from nature. So labor is like very ancient. Everyone performs labor, right? Primitive communism, what have you.
Yeah.
That begins to separate the person from nature. Through work and fabrication, humans build a world with a higher degree of permanence and durability to stand against nature and to separate themselves from the cyclical demands of nature. Finally, action in participation in the political life that discloses persons in their singularity and gives them the opportunity to be remembered. So again, very Aristotelian point right there about the life of politics and political man. Action is important for Arendt because through words and deeds, persons can accomplish acts that are unique to them. So now we have an Arendt specialization and differentiation of work and labor that culminates together in political action, which unites everything together, right? Again, another very Aristotelian point. Arendt works and deeds persons can accomplish that are unique to them. She writes in The Human Condition, in acting and speaking, man saw who they are, reveal actively their unique personal identities, and thus make their appearance in the human world. In other words, political action discloses who someone is. So yes, when people say that the personal is the political, that is actually a very ancient perception of what politics is. So also through political action, one can attain a degree of immortality because through oral and written record and tradition, an individual's actions can be remembered beyond one's lifespan. Many have interpreted Arendt's discussion of action from the human condition as an aesthetic activity because action discloses persons in their individuality through performance. Politically, Arendt seems to be endorsing an aesthetic model of politics which promotes the creativity and individuality of the actor above all else. So here you have politics as being, in a lot of ways, a quest for a particular aesthetics of immortality. There are still politicians from the ancient world that we discuss to this day. You know, Thucydides comes to mind, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, nothing to really add here. I agree with that statement.
But notice how, like, from labor to work to then action, Arendt makes a very good distinction, I feel, between, like, what rudimentary labor is for the means of sustenance and what political action in the face of the public actually does, right? It would be surprising if we lived that long into the next few decades or even to the next century. Well, we'll probably won't reach the next century. But, like, you know, it would be funny in the next century what people, the certain political figures that people remember from our own time. Yeah.
I'm certainly curious to know what that may look like.
I think Trump will probably be remembered.
Well, just by being the president of the United States. Yeah, most certainly.
Yeah. So Arendt seems to endorse an aesthetic model of politics which promotes the creativity and individuality of the actor above all else. But again, like we said, the spectator is equally, like the audience in the work of art, is equally valid in that regard. Because again, I mean, it's a very basic, almost Hegelian observation, right? But the dialectic between the audience and the artist, or the audience and the political actor, is a necessary one, because political action is realized in the eyes of the other, right? The big other outside of ourselves. The way that our subjectivity is realized by the other, the way the political action for the political actor is ultimately realized in the other that is the political spectator, right? A dictator or a tyrant, I think even didn't Leo Strauss and Kojève talk about this? Like, a tyrant can only be a tyrant if his actions are imprinted on the other. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You could be like some weirdo schizo in a mental institution that thinks you're like the king of some far off land and that your little actions determine the fate of millions when really you're just locked in a padded room. Like, it doesn't work that way, right? It doesn't matter, right? But yeah, so you get the belabored point there. Once action is interpreted as aesthetic, Arendt is generally either criticized or applauded. The critics of Arendt's aestheticization of politics believe that she promotes the creativity and virtuosity of the political actor. God forbid, we have the great man of history theory, God forbid, right? At the expense of others within the community. Oh my God, I mean, because an indentured servant girl doing the laundry is equally as important as Caesar Augustus, according to Mary Beard in mainstream history. Yeah, an average marching soldier is just as important as Caesar Augustus in modern history departments. And at the expense of others within the community, George Kateb, for example, believes that Arendt has a tendency to celebrate the play of the actor without considering the moral consequences of such action. Oh no! Ooh. See, notice how Arendt doesn't come off as as much of a lib as people want to make her out to be. Like, she criticized the civil rights regime back in the day. Did you know this, Prude?
Yeah.
Did you know this? Did you hear about this? Like, speaking of Jay Leno, right? Did you know about this? Did you hear about this? I do that bit with my friends all the time, and they're deeply annoyed by that.
Did you hear about this?
Yeah. Did you hear about Gavin Newsom, Hyperborean Nights? Did you know about this? Did you hear about this? So anyways, Gavin Newsom's got the EU flag with the spinny wheel in the background, and anyways,
he's got the Hyperborean edits.
He's in Valhalla. For example, believes that Arendt's tendency to celebrate the play of the actor without consideration of the moral consequences of his actions. Kateb asserts that since action is not tied to universal moral judgments, the actor is free rein when it comes to how he or she chooses to act. All kinds of action, no matter how immoral, seem allowable and permissible for the sake of the actor's performance. Again, Arendt is, the criticism is that Arendt is just seeking the aesthetic truth of action, which in a funny way, almost in a weird way, not to academics would disagree with this, but you could potentially create scholarship of comparing Arendt's work to, say, Italian elite theory. Would be a good example, right? All kinds of action, blah, 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 blah. Consequently, the creative development of the actor could easily lead to detrimental consequences for the community. Because the actor's creativity is prioritized, for Kateb, the demands of disclosing the individual actor overrides the political needs of the community as a whole in Arendt's work. But that's an unfair criticism, because if you read Origins of Totalitarianism, Arendt takes a lot of moral stands. I don't think that's I know I'm really defending Hannah Arendt here, but I think that's, I could see that if you're just focusing on the human condition, but not in Origins of Totalitarianism. She makes a very clear moral stance, right? So the best of those who defend Arendt's aestheticization of politics, the best of those who defend her aestheticization of politics, such as Dana Villa, are careful to note that the political art of action is not a type of political fabrication or romanticism, which is often criticized by Arendt. Nevertheless, in Arendt and Heidegger, The Fate of the Political, Villa asserts that the aesthetic interpretation of action is a positive component to Arendt's thought. Since action primarily concerns freedom and performance, Villa thinks that it can be characterized as artistic, and she claims that Arendt is inspired by Nietzsche in her aesthetic portrayal of action, which is very true. Arendt's strength over Nietzsche, however, is that she adopts Nietzsche's critique of Western metaphysics and Platonism, but improves upon it by overcoming its political and ethical weaknesses, such as its tendency towards nihilism, subjectivism, and relativism. Villa thinks that Arendt surpasses Nietzsche's work because she supplements her view with a Kantian theory of judgment. By using Kant's aesthetic ideas such as disinterestedness and common sense, Villa asserts that Arendt maintains a boundary that keeps the play playful and places limitations on the undesirable form of action for the community. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily true because, I mean, Nietzsche takes a huge stance in picking apart the logic of Kantianism. And I think that you would have to contend with that more than anything else if you wanted to assert that Arendt is going above Nietzsche in that regard. But that's a huge philosophic question. Anyways.
I don't think we're going to get an answer from this author either, unfortunately, on that.
Yeah, we'll read it. Yeah,
on that point either. I think one of the other things too to really sort of consider here is that this claim about creation of creativity and virtuosity at the expense of others. I mean, this is par for the course of all political aesthetics.
Going in the ancient world, really?
Well, I mean, the ancient world, but even to today, right? Like, people call this petty romanticism, but I mean, even if you look at the nationalist movements of the 19th century, the aestheticization was to promote a virtuosity, but also a greater understanding of like the individual identity
on the left and the right as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's present everywhere.
Post-colonial movements to the far right and fascism.
Yeah, like, I mean, even communism or whatever exists of communism today is focused on the same question of like the aesthetics of asking the question of what will you do in the commune, or what will you be doing after the proletariat revolution. These things are aesthetic questions because it poses into you of how do you see yourself within said movement or ideology. Mm-hmm. Those things are not just explicit to Arendt's work. They're explicit to liberal romantics. They're explicit in the ancients, and even to today. And I mean,
that's a great point.
Even to tie into referencing, even Nietzsche talks about this. And the point is that, I mean, although Nietzsche warns very clearly, like, to the last man will look at this and not question anything about it because he sees no wonder or bewilderment, because there's been a death in belief or in something higher. Hence his lamentation for what has happened to Europe and, of course, the Germanic movement or the Germanic peoples in the midst of the 19th century. But all of this boils down to me, right? And we don't even have to get into Kant here, but I mean, that's a whole other can of worms. But to say that Arendt is an artistic political person would be to simply say, okay, cool. Well, so is everyone else. Every political actor paints a picture. Every Aldasair MacIntyre talks about this in after Virtue, wherein all of us, we are always about narratives. Narratives are aesthetics, and all things. And not to say that that's the end all be all of politics. No, I wouldn't say that at all. But they're required in all things, and all political actors, whether they're piss poor idiots that don't get anything accomplished, to those that have become great men of history that we still remember to this day. Those people are still very much present, and you cannot, you can't say that like this is explicit to her.
Yeah. But then I think like the criticism would be that when it comes to the manifestations of quote unquote modern liberal democracies, which is really a sort of like the technocracies of transnational progressivism. If you look, like we mentioned the EU, for example, or even here in Canada, or to an extent, the American empire, there's sort of like an entrenched form of power and managerialism that is incredibly hard to disrupt. And even when they, for example, like Keir Starmer in the UK has what, a 15% approval rate? Like, even when the aesthetics of it are disastrous, there seems to be an impossibility or a sort of like metaphysical like swarm or miasma or cloud of unknowing when it comes to political action, and it comes to actual changing of regimes and changing of ways of how political actors relate to their own populaces. It seems like it's impossible in a weird way. And I don't know if that disrupts the distinction to where the spectator actually is totally irrelevant, or was the spectator ever relevant? Now, certain people who are very fond of elite theory would have a very cynical take and say, well, actually, the spectator is irrelevant. It was always about the elites. But I think that there still is that aesthetic grounds of the condition or of the possibility of political action to begin with, which is something that Hannah Arendt is doing on a philosophic level. Now, when it comes to like a material political level, then yeah, you could say that the elite theorists, especially in our day and age, have a lot of validity to that sense of like, well, I think even Academic Agent had a video recently, which I have to listen to, but I was listening to a little bit. It was pretty good, about the impossibility of challenging progressive, like free market liberalism in our world. Because it purports to be a force of nature to the extent that there can be no political regime that rivals it. And so it seems like maybe it doesn't seem as impossible in America, because America was always the sort of land of the political spectacle, and a lot of their American presidents are mythologized in history as great men of letters and so on, and great men of action. But I think that in the rest of the Western civilization, there is this pervasive liberal managerialism that just seems to work. In fact, actually works better in some ways, quote unquote. By work, I mean elites that continue to exist the way they are and the way that they exercise power. It actually works better when the consent of the governed is explicitly not there. You know, I mean, it seems like you'd figure like, and really it goes to the critique of democracy as a whole, as a system of validity. How do you find that calculus of political legitimacy and validity? Can you look at people that love to Janny for these regimes and these liberal managers, you know, people with the globe avatar, like the globe in their, you know, like the world globe in their Twitter handles, you know, those neoliberal, unironic neoliberal types. It's like, well, is democracy, like this whole thing about democracy is like, you know, it relies on so much fiction. Because if you look at the current political arrangements around the Western world, is there really like consent of the governed in any meaningful sense? I mean, or is even that desirable? I mean, as someone who questions the whole desirability of that, I mean, it's not just a matter of pointing out hypocrisy, but even if you are like a diehard elite theorist that says, well, you know, the elites have the consent of the governed regardless because they have the ability to exercise power. It's like, well, if the elites are sufficiently incompetent and sclerotic and hate their own people and wish to destroy them and rather than preserve them, I mean, that doesn't make any sense. It's just the political analysis makes sense, but the sort of the heart of the mechanics of politics itself doesn't make any sense. If I'm being clear in what I'm saying,
you have to. I think because I think it's desirable just for the purpose that this is the system on paper you have to work with. So it becomes important that you have the consent manufactured, or there's this feeling of popularity behind you, organic or otherwise. You can run off the energy. And of course, when it's not organic, you see it very clearly because I mean, like Kamala Harris, really good example. This Gavin Newsom stuff, really good example. Gavin Newsom still has a greater unfavorability rating than he does favorable. And it's also the thing about like the internet too. Like our perceptions get incredibly skewed because we exist in a media or in a medium that wants us to be perpetually at all times looking at it and wants us to engage with it, right? And so like the aesthetics of any sort of political group or the popularity or the consent of the governed gets totally taken out for a spin, right? Like Elon Musk is being a sort of like the whole like, well, I will operate on the consent of the governed, and I will open a vote, and I will have my America party. And it's just like, okay, well, Twitter is open to the world, so none of these votes are Americans to begin with, right? You know, and those voting no are more American at this point than anything else. And they just go, oh, okay, like I'm not going to do it or whatever, you know. But for us, right, democracy still serves a purpose to, you know, just have numbers and to throw them on there and to re-emphasize like, oh, you mean something, even if you don't, right? Like the sell of a good huckster is always to let the audience think, or whoever's listening think that like I'm talking to you directly.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Oh my God. And then, of course, like in a global environment, you could just like rig popular votes and rig elections and just get sufficient numbers of online polling that are coming from every which way. Because God forbid you geolock those things to certain regions and countries.
Wouldn't that be something,
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be amazing? No, it ain't gonna happen. It's just not. Like those days are gone. I don't think you could. But also,
the American Party, America's for the world. Don't you know that?
Yeah, America's
America's for the world.
America's for the world. America's like a sports team. We want the best people here, which is why like there's no regional love for your original sports teams and things like that ever. Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, because like there's people around the world
that have some fucking goals. And it's just like, yeah, but imagine that, but in Silicon Valley.
That's crazy. There's people around the world that have Lakers jerseys or whatever. It's like you don't even live in America. Why would you care? Like or you don't even like an ethnic tie to like people that live in.
Oh man, it was always
Los
crazy
Angeles.
when I lived overseas because like they would ask you where you're from, and I would say like Texas because that's family's from, and they're like,
"Oh
Dallas
my god, Cowboys!"
But they would ask me about Dallas all the time. It's like, oh, you know about Dallas? Like we love the TV show Dallas. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's way before my fucking time, and it's just like, do you know who shot JR? And I was like, oh my god, I am like 10. Stop. But,
man,
like that was back then. Obviously,
I shouldn't say that because like people that watch hockey throughout the world have a high likelihood of being a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. There was this one story this guy told in Leaf Twitter where he said that I went to the Dominican for a vacation and the guy noticed that I was watching hockey on the TV, the bartender. And he's like, oh yeah, I watch hockey because there's a lot of Canadian tourists. He goes, he asked him, he's like, okay, you watch hockey on the TV. What's your favorite team? And he said the fucking Toronto Maple Leafs. A bartender in the Dominican Republic. That's funny. But let's skip ahead. So where the article talks explicitly about the work of art. If you want to read Prude, however, art has a special place.
I can go ahead. However, art has a special place amongst fabricated things for Arendt. Artworks are the most durable of fabricated things because they are not used like other use objects, such as chairs, tables, and instruments. Art has a durability of a higher order than other use objects, and therefore has the potential to survive longer. Thus, art objects have a similarity to political action because they can touch upon immortality, but they remain different because art is ultimately used to is ultimately always an object of fabrication that helps provide a stable and objective world. Art can assist action because poets and artists can help preserve the stories of the actions in order to immortalize the acts, but the artistic process itself is not action for Arendt. The main purpose of the work of art is to contribute to the permanence and the durability of a fabricated human world that will last throughout the ages and provide a home for human beings.
Well, in a way, it's similar to like the sagas of Iceland, rather than, I think, works of explicit political propaganda, which is always going to be a very sticky and contentious issue. What is a genuine work of art that can mythologize certain forms of political action that are relevant to the people of that world, but then carry on a form of immortality, as opposed to just average political sloganeering and propaganda posters? But it's very funny because it's a very easy distinction because there's still people that value even very recent political posters for their aesthetic qualities. There's this whole account on Twitter that looks at a political propaganda from like both the left and the right. So they'll have like Italian fascist posters and like Maoist China posters and ads and slogans and from the Soviet Union to Franco's Spain. It's a very interesting account. I forget the account name, but people still, I think, value those things. But I think given time, I don't think, maybe with the exception of the Obama illustration, I don't think that there's going to be many works that survive in terms of cultural and artistic legitimacy outside of their political context. Maybe the famous Obama, monochrome illustration, but other than that, I can't think of a recent example. Maybe Trump's fist in the air probably would be.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Well, in part because there's nothing that has the permanence of previous artworks, right? Like the great paintings, and I mean, we've talked about this. God, how many times have we brought? Like, I use this example, but I think it's very perennial for an explicit reason. What's the last famous photograph you can think of? Besides, the last famous one might be the fight, with Trump with his fist raised in the air.
Yeah,
right. But that's only because it's like currently now in the political moment. Maybe like 12 years ago, right? Like you had the very famous Syrian infant or toddler that had drowned that was used to sort of pour it out there. But I mean, there's so
Obama crying.
Maybe Obama crying, or like the Situation Room photo when they got Osama bin Laden.
Oh, that one, yeah. That one.
But like again, I'm going back 10 years and more. To do this, but I mean, because of the smartphone and because of how easy it is to generate memes.
George Bush mission accomplished.
Yeah, that too, right? But again,
it's almost 20 years old now.
It's about 20 years old. Yeah, I think it may be a little earlier or more than 20 years old at this point. But like, see how many decades we're going back to name famous photos. And so because it's so easy to make a meme or to take a photo on your phone, photos have decreased in value. There's not a famous snapshot moment. Even when there is a famous snapshot moment, like in any other point in time in US, like if we lived in a pre-internet age, the Donald Trump mugshot would be this very famous image. And it probably
imagine a Nixon mugshot.
Or if Nixon did go to jail, right? Like those things would be infamous. But now, because of how fast the timeline moves, images, created or otherwise, don't have the same staying power. So what do we go to? We're looking for a new thing. And I think for a lot of people these days, it's about, we go back to stories. We go back to sagas. We're still a mythopoetic kind of people at the end of the day. Because what do people still argue about, even in our, you can call it slop or you can call it just like video or whatever. Like you can say it's not art or whatever. But what do people give a shit nowadays more about anything in video games? Writing, storytelling, and art direction. Things that serve an aesthetic and artistic purpose that actually could stand the test of time. Like you can say what you will about video games and art or however, but like people still to this day argue about the fucking world of Dark Souls. And like, there's a reason for it because it's pretty, it's interesting, it's unique, it tells a story. The same thing with Halo, the same thing with like Fallout New Vegas, right? Everyone's favorite political simulator that for some reason gets called TrueCore by way too many people, which is unfortunate. But it illustrates that for us, like this, it's not really permanent, but when a game is created or that kind of world is created, it's final, right? Like you can't add to it. Yeah, there's DLC, but after a certain point, like nothing else gets added. So that's it. And that world is complete. And now that vision is there and I can go to it in the same way that I know if I go open the Aeneid right now and I see it mirroring and echoing the words that I saw on the Odyssey, then all of a sudden I know I'm being taken back and I'm being put into a world that inspires me and tells the test of time. Will these video games tell the test of time? Probably not. Like we've lost our age and technology and media has made it impossible for permanence to exist. I would love to be wrong because I would love to know what survives this age. I won't know because we'll all be dead, obviously. But like, it begs a certain question. Like, well, where are we? Where's the home for us? And I think that's why we go online so often, because home can be manufactured for you wholesale.
Yeah.
Home and community, hearth and home can be facilitated, even if it's a simulacra or just a painting of a home that exists. And for quite a few people these days who have been so radically dispossessed economically, politically, demographically, that's all they've got left. And so there's this great digital retreat. But as we know with the internet, nothing is truly permanent.
Exactly. Yeah. And time really mythologizes a lot of different things. So who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah. Time will only tell.
Yeah. The artwork must be placed in the realm of fabrication in Arendt's project, but even in the case of art itself, the importance of art is not the creative expression of the artist. And between past and future, she states that artwork helps to provide a stable world for human beings, thus functioning is more important and compelling than the expression of creativity by the artist. She asserts that art provides a record of cultural history and far surpasses the psychological state of artists, and thus art can only be judged by its lastingness and durability as an object. And of course, she's probably getting a lot of that from Heidegger. The focus of art for Arendt, therefore, is not on creativity of the artist, but concerns the objectivity of the creative thing. And again, she's getting this from both Heidegger and Kant and so on and so forth. If art like a painting is used for other purposes, such as disclosure of the artist, the refinement of the social taste of the viewer, or even to cover a hole in the wall, it runs the risk of no longer being able to fulfill its function, which is providing a stability and continuity throughout the ages for human beings. One of Arendt's critiques of mass society is that it tends to consume artworks for entertainment purposes. Oh boy, now we're getting into almost Frederick Jameson Debord territory, which threatens the durability and lastingness of art and the fabricated world. She claims that this will hinder the possibility of human action because without lasting structures, there will not be a permanent space for political activity. For her, the most important purpose of art is its durability and objectivity. Even for the artist, the expressive quality of art is not of great importance, which makes political action thought of as artistic expression highly unlikely. So, and actually, the work of art supersedes the political. The political can only exist in that culture. And even like you could say Spangler said this as well. The political action can only exist within that corpus of the greater culture of that civilization, right? Something that even Schmidt took from Spangler and so on and so forth. I mean, even Heidegger read Spangler, even though he didn't admit to it, but he did. So the life world of a civilization, to which art, the work of art is integral to, is in that process of judging and of creating the conditions for political action. Because what is politics? According to Spangler, and according to other spicy thinkers, the thinker that I probably shouldn't mention, is essentially the expression of that life world and of the culture of a people. That is what politics should be and is, right? It is the judgment of a civilization and a culture being given voice in actions that are temporal and physical, but nevertheless pull towards something that is very, in a lot of ways, atemporal, right? So Arendt is saying that the work of art creates the conditions for politics. But notice another thing, too, is that she's critiquing this whole modern obsession with like media literacy, which is really just a foil for the supremacy of artistic intention. She's saying that's irrelevant. You know, like the work of art's so much greater in a culture than just the interpretation or the expression of the artist. So I think that like these people have this like the intentionality of the work of art's important, and that therefore there is a moral worth given to this thing called media literacy, which really just boils down to artistic intentionality. And the voice of the artist must speak the ideology of me in the present, or else it doesn't have any moral worth. Hannah Arendt says that creates the conditions of robbing immortality and durability from the work of art. So every time some like libtard talks about you lack media literacy, it's like, no, that's not the point. That robs the life world of a culture of its lastingness, because it's grounding aesthetic and even political judgment within this thing called intentionality or creativity, which is something that the work of art in a lot of ways supersedes, right? And she's getting this from Heidegger's later works of poetry, language, thought, where, for example, he talks about Van Gogh's peasant shoes and how that, even beyond the intentionality of Van Gogh, creates the conditions of perceiving the life world of that peasant, of grounding the work of art into the greater work of the peasantry in those the peasant women's shoes. So it goes around the social conditions to point to something greater, which is the revealing of labor itself. If you've ever read that essay on the peasant shoes by Heidegger. So yeah, these people that talk about media literacy, even Hannah Arendt would say, these people are misguided. And when it comes to like liberal political philosophy, who am I going to trust more? Am I going to trust some writer in Jacobin or Slate, or God forbid some Vice writer, or some like Twitch streamer talking about media literacy? Who am I going to trust more? Hassan Piker or Denims when it comes to liberal philosophy, or Hannah Arendt? There you go, right? I'm appealing to authority. Well, I don't know. I think the authority of Hannah Arendt supersedes that of some Twitch streamer. That's just me. But
I'm just a guy. What do I know?
What do I know? Like, I mean, I know we live in a post-literate age where the writing of a political philosopher, even a relatively recent political philosopher, when did Hannah Arendt, death date. When did she die? She died in 1974. Okay? She's 69 years old. 1974, it's a long time for us, but relatively recently, on the cusp of the 21st century, right? So,
yeah.
Anyways, I don't know. I'm just pissed off at these people.
You're 69 years old. You sit, Sorry, couldn't help myself.
Well, I think she was younger than Heidegger when they had an affair, but
Well, no, duh.
Yeah.
No, duh. But
he cucked Carl Jaspers.
Is that really such a bad thing?
Well, I actually like Carl Jaspers, but I know, Heidegger. What are you gonna do?
Anyway, have some fun with this.
Yeah. It's really bad. Oh my god!
What you're saying is,
Carl Jaspers got strongman by the wild man of the Black Forest. Anyways,
hogged by Heidegger.
Someone's got to take that name. Hogged by Heidegger. Oh my god. Although art has a positive function for Although art has a positive function for art by helping to build a more permanent world, she is highly critical when models of fabrication that is used to create artworks and other permanent structures is applied politically. Following Heidegger, she sustains the importance of the Greek distinction between praxis and poiesis. Praxis being action or ability, poiesis being revealing. She is against the fabrication model of politics based upon poiesis. If action is aesthetic, then politics is interpreted as a process that can be fabricated, created and controlled according to the idea or pattern of one actor who expresses himself in the creation of the political act. For Arendt, this is impossible because political action cannot be predicted and controlled in this manner. Actions fall into a web of human relations, and how an action will be received cannot be controlled in advance. Action is unpredictable because it relies upon other people, the spectators who view the action, so not just pure mental activity of the political actor, but also the spectator. Who views the action decides its ultimate meaning through reflective judgment. The actor cannot completely control or fashion the outcome of their action, and they also cannot control how they are disclosed to a community. These decisions do not belong to one individual, but are intersubjective in Arendt's view and are decided upon by the community as a whole. So she's saying that political action is just as important for the spectator as well, in terms of just the conscious creation and the mental faculties and rationality and creativity of the political actor, but also the mental faculties and rationality of the spectator. But I would, I've been
I would take it a step further and say participation.
Yeah, that would be another thing. Now, I mean, I've been fanboying Arendt all night, but I do think the criticism would be that being more cynical, I think elite theory would probably one-up Arendt and say that distinction is not true because the spectator's perceptions of reality can be just as equally controlled and manufactured as anything else. So,
well, she is writing in a time before our media exists, like the ability, but also at the same time, like there was the greater acceptance of like this is the norm. For us, those norms are constantly either being transgressed or being deliberately violated for the sake of, we want to move things in a different direction. When they say who they are, quote, believe them, as the saying goes, because it's just like, oh yeah, like, what do you mean? Like, well, I'm dealing with a bunch of people that literally describe themselves in wolves and sheep's clothing, like the Fabians, right? These are things that we have to keep in mind. But at the same time, it's just like, well, this is just how things are. We would never dare cross those lines. But I think also too, with participation or having the audience feeling as if they should be involved, or that it matters just as much as those creating it. I think that when we look at sort of all political action and sort of the aesthetics behind them, one really important thing to keep in mind, especially in today's world, is that you want or you absolutely need the people to feel as if they are participating.
Yes.
In a culture of blatant narcissism.
Yeah. My essay is actually entitled "The Narcissist, the Sociopath." Sorry, the Narcissist, the Psychopath, and the Lolcow.
In the age of selfie suicide, Gio, we really do need to consider. And I
really is a tragic figure of her age. Yeah.
Truly, he is. But at the same time, what I'm trying to say is that like you also really do have to consider that participation matters, because it makes them believe that whatever role they are, manipulated or otherwise, does matter writ large. Like,
Yes.
as someone who's worked in the nonprofit sector a lot in my professional career, that's the big thing that they always sell towards millennials, more so than Zoomers who get involved in these things. They are really adamant that you sell on the, well, what's in it for me deal, or how am I being a good person? Can I broadcast this to other people? Which is sort of deeply anti-Christian in the sense that, like, you should be doing good deeds in secret because your Father in heaven.
She mentions this actually. We're the last.
Okay, cool. Because it's like at the end of the day, for how I'm looking at it, at least, right? Like those things, to give Arendt maybe some defense, would just be like that stuff matters because the age of narcissism that she definitely lived to see. Definitely came about.
Yeah.
But go on.
No, well, it comes up in the banality of evil as well, which only a lot of people misunderstand when it comes to Hannah Arendt. I mean, there's such a common, like, normie slop interpretation of the banality of evil that they say everything's a banality of evil. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that Arendt suffered from I wouldn't say suffered from an optimism, because a lot of her works come off as deeply pessimistic, whether it be Eichmann in Israel or, On Violence or Origins of Totalitarianism. But I think, like, near the end of her life, she did have, I think, the one critique I would give is that, like most liberals at that age, I'm not using that as a term of denigration, because of course the liberal of the 1970s is vastly different than the liberal today. In terms of even intellectual quality. I think, like, she did suffer from a sort of weird futuristic optimism that came into fruition at the very beginning of the 21st century. And I think that if Hannah Arendt were to have lived into her 80s, would she be alive if she lived to her 80s? Would she have seen the 21st century?
When was she born?
Arendt born. She was born October 14th, 1906.
She probably wouldn't live to see. If she lived to be in her 80s, in like the late 80s, right? Like maybe you would see her views would definitely have changed, I think, on a lot of issues.
She would have seen, like, she probably would have seen, like, the Reagan administration, though.
Yeah, well, she would have seen that, but also just like television and the like, she did live to see TV, obviously, but I mean, like, the way in which television as you and I would know it, where like the 80s, really the 80s television really is sort of the shadow we're still trying to come out of, right? Like, from even like we talked about late night earlier, like we're still living under the shadow of Johnny Carson, right? There's still that shadow that's present in the same way that we're trying to escape the shadow of TV that was made back then. Like we're still doing the slice of, everyone is still trying to do 30 something, right? Everyone is still trying to do the sitcom,
Facts of
life and stuff like that. Like these things are still present with us, and they're not going away anytime soon. But we're coming out of them. Like, we are coming out of that haze. And I think that if Arendt were to live to see the mass media age of the 1980s, I think she would about have a heart attack.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My mother used to like all those shows like Facts of Life, Different Strokes, The Huxtables. I'm like, oh my God, But anyways, it was a different time. Yeah. Yeah. Facts of Life, they were like the orphan girls. Like, were they orphans or something?
I could not tell you off the top of my
head. They were like in a halfway house. Like, were they like, One was like the badass butch. The other one was like the sort of pudgy one. One was like the pretty one. Like, am I correct about this?
To our audience who is older, feel free to correct us.
The facts of life. Yes, I was correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they had the pudgy one, the pretty one, the mean girl, the street tough one, the black girl. Like,
we haven't escaped these TV tropes, by the way.
Someone said the other day that British sitcom Absolutely Fabulous, that's essentially the meta of the Red Scare Girls.
I have not seen that TV show, so I wouldn't know.
Well, I was in Canada. I actually did see that in Comedy Network in Canada, the Absolutely Fabulous. It came on late nights. That is the dynamic of the... Mr. D loves that show. I gotta like say that. I gotta send him that tweet. He'd like...
Well, he's gonna be doing his own show stuff soon.
Yeah, he's gonna scream at me for saying... Gio, I don't know why you like these people. I love Mr. D. I absolutely love him. But anyways, moving on. Arendt traces the problem of the substitution of making for action back to Plato's philosophy, fearing the unpredictability and irreversibility of action. Plato sought a more predictable standard for politics guided by ideas, or forms which drive a model of fabrication. These ideas provide a universal pattern or plan for ruling the state. So again, Arendt is still struggling with, is it just like blind elite theory political action? Or is there something that can hypostasize political action to make it more universal or ethical or virtuous? This goes right back to Plato, and even before Plato, really, honestly. I mean, even in India, they had this debate in the Bhagavad Gita. Their ideas provide a universal pattern or plan for ruling the state. Since there is only one ideal model, utopian politics becomes possible because there is one universal plan that assures consensus among all members of the community. However, again, this is her Aristotelian impulse. Arendt claims that universal politics founded on the model of fabrication crushes human plurality and leads to domination because there is only one ideal plan of action that merely needs to be instituted. In the fabrication model of politics, politics is controlled by a master in the technique of human affairs who constructs the state according to a blueprint. And boy, did she predict the rise of managerialism to a T. So moving on, in her famous essay in 1961, Freedom and Politics, Arendt, and I actually highly recommend people reading that essay. Arendt plainly states that regardless of the perceived similarities between art and action, the political relation is not modeled upon the creative arts. She states, because all action demands virtuosity, and because virtuosity is a characteristic particular to the applied arts, the opinion has been widely held that politics constitutes an art. If, as it frequently the case, the word art is understood to mean creative art, and the state is regarded as a work of art, as indeed the greatest work of art created by the hand of man, then such an idea is completely false. In terms of creative arts, which produces something concrete that survives the labor that produced it and is completely disassociated from it, politics are the very reverse of art. The state is not a work of art because if it were no other reason, its existence never becomes independent of the actions of the men who created it. But I would disagree there. I would say that the state could become independent of the individual architects or the individual managers. But again, she's not really predicting 100% the rise of managerialism. She did predict the slop economy, though. She did predict in sort of like the postmodern, Frederick Jameson style, that people will be imbued by the spectacle to where the work of art just becomes solely for entertainment. Like, she's very cynical in that regard, right? She says that, like, the work of art crashes against the rocks of entertainment, right? But I do think that there's a strong impulse in Arendt because, again, she did read Benjamin to disassociate from saying that politics is like art because, of course, Hannah Arendt, she's well aware of Proud, a certain painter from Austria.
I was about to say, like, if the state's a work of art, and I'm like, well, when are we going to drop the F-bomb on that one? Because, boy, oh boy, there's a certain political philosophy that would say that is certainly true.
Right, so she's distancing herself from that, but I do think that
she's making the author claims that Arendt is making a clear distance from fascism.
Yes, but I would say that her distance from fascism and her criticism is an apt one, because she's saying that the work, I mean, I'm just saying this as an artist myself, but like the work of art does in a way constitute the greater culture of a people, and in that sense gives a precedent over political action, because in a lot of ways politics is responding to the preconditions of what a civilization, what a culture does provide. So I think that she's saying, and so to read further on, clearly is Arendt's position that action is not a creative art. The purpose of fabrication is to create a durable object, while action cannot be interpreted in the same way because it does not create an object that can be divided from the actor. Action discloses who a person is and does not create a fabrication of a pattern that can be separated from actor. Art, in contrast, is produced through the means of a preconceived plan in order to achieve the production of the object that survives as part of the durable world. So she's saying that she's going against a few different things. She's going against the sort of art for art's sake, like creativity is overridden by everything. She's saying that no, the work of art actually does take precedent over the artist, right? That's number one. And in that framework, she's saying that political actions in a lot of ways are kind of like a crapshoot. Like, you don't know if a political action in the present is going to last into eternity. The Mayans claimed that they were doing it. The Khans claimed that they were doing it. Certain Caesars claimed that they were doing it. But ultimately, it only is a matter of time and history itself that determines which political action in a particular milieu can last into eternity and have a durability the way that the work of art does. And so I think that Hannah Arendt is going against the grain when it comes to, interpretations of the work of art being just solely the creativity of the artist, and also the interpretation that political actions are done in terms of a form of durability or immortality. She's saying that no, most political actions are not done with that view. Like, in fact, 90% of them. I mean, there were certain great statesmen in history. I mean, there was even, I would argue, certain American presidents or certain visionary leaders in various countries that thought that their actions were going to transcend time. But ultimately, politics is so ephemeral to the sense of it really is kind of like just a weird form of responding and being reactionary in the pure sense of the word, of a politician reacting to present conditions and only thinking about present conditions and their own power. So she's saying that, no, actually, like, people like to say that I'm saying that, politics is a work of art, but she's like, no, because the work of art is so much more. And I think that that's out of all the criticisms of that rather far-right view that politics is an extension of art, I think hers is probably the fairest criticism. I think other people that have criticized that, they're sort of ignoring the sort of poetry that goes into maybe in the classic, the ancient world, and maybe not so much in the modern world. But I think people ignore the poetry that goes into political action. I think that we don't have any great political statesmen. I mean, we may have come close once or twice. I mean, people may argue, at least aesthetically, Trump. But I mean, I'm skeptical of that. But I think that, do we have any politicians that are worthy of poetry? I don't know.
I don't think so. Not good poetry, maybe.
Not good poetry, yeah. I don't know. Didn't like, who was that girl? The Obama Gorman?
No, Amanda Gorman.
Or even didn't Rupi Kaur did a poem for Hillary or something like that? I think
so.
I forget.
But I mean, is any of it good?
No.
Yeah. No. But I think that really becomes the thing at the end of the day is do we live in an age, and this also kind of goes back to like the Walter Benjamin question, about the reproduction of art. Like, everything we have is so cookie cutter, so easily reproducible. I mean, Pete Buttigieg, right, doing the whole Obama impression, people making the more like the white Obama, where it's just like, 60% more gay, 65% more like less likely to be rejected by the black community, right? It's like and so, but like, he's trying to do Obama to a T, and so like, you're trying to emulate a statesman, and that doesn't work because everyone can see it, or everyone's like, well, we've done this before.
Every conservative wants to be Ronald Reagan. Yeah.
Well, more, I think. But yeah, there was a point in time where it's just like we want to emulate the greats. And if the great masters of our time are like Ronald Reagan or Barack Obama in this instance, like, yeah, like it's going to be really easy to do that. But also at the same time, there is this unique, going back to the American democratic model, there is this consequence of, America is a bundle of contradictions, and the contradictions that we've yet to truly reconcile, even in this age of mass democratic politics, is that pioneer values and pioneer politics means that you're dealing with the wants and the more material side of things. But although I don't mean this in like a raw atheistic sense, but like the day-to-day political things of like, clearly you people have too much power. We don't have a representation or a voice or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that has now given way, I think, to some of the more cringe aspects of American politics, where it's like the MTGs of the world, or Michelle Bachmann or whatever. And on the left, you see this too, and it's primarily for ethnic reasons more so than like out of the American tradition, because it's not like they're engaged politically for any sense of the nation. We want to be seen, be members, part of it, and have our power. But also it's still broken down to, well, we have to do it, right? Like even the Mamdani cutaway TV commercial, like it's fucking Curb Your Enthusiasm, right? That is an art form. It's not a good one. It's not a good one.
I think it was Eddie Bernays on Twitter that I retweeted it. It was Mamdani was on the cover of Time magazine, and he's like, he put it in the cover, Fell for It Again award. It's like, no, Mamdani will be like the left's Fell for It Again award. Like, let's be real. It's just yeah, but oh, sorry, go ahead, Prue.
Like that's like that, but like what I'm saying is like that version of politics isn't going
right,
because we're so reduced in our beliefs or our values or whatever you can say, however you like about it. This is the American system, and it's become reproduced on the sort of like global scale. And when we do that, it means we have to generate a cookie cutter version of it. And so there becomes no great statesman, because we're all reducing ourselves to the cookie cutter foundation. And the cookie cutter foundation tells me at the end of the day, like, why have poetry for these people? There's nothing great here. They're like every other politician. Is Trump going to be the great man of history that maybe I want him to be? Probably not. But at the end of the day, I also know that Trump is a lot better than what I've had. And right, like that's a crazy thing to say out loud.
Well, even like great states, like even like in terms of impact, like even, leaders and dictators have done absolutely abominable things and have led to the deaths of millions. Like even someone like Chairman Mao, is whether you, I mean, I'm no fan of Maoism, obviously, like that goes without saying, but there is something to the sort of visage of someone like Chairman Mao that I think, there obviously is something there.
Do we say this because they're still within living memory?
Right, that's
like,
true.
This is such a deep, like I hate to sound like I'm coping, but like this is such a deep time historical question that we won't know. Like, did the people of Julius Caesar's time, did they think, maybe his detractors more so than maybe his followers, did they think perhaps that like this will be forgotten in like by the time of our grandchildren? Maybe, I don't know. Like, will all this era of politics be forgotten like a bad dream? Maybe. I doubt it. But like it raises a real terrifying question. And that terrifying question is going to be like, we're not going to live to know. And that leaves you sort of just questioning or wondering like, well, what is it going to be? And I think for Arendt, right? Like clearly the aftermath of the war is the most important thing on her mind, of what she lived and what she saw and what she experienced. And for us, I think it will definitely be boiling down to the question of, well, we live in an age where the camp of the saints became real, and what do we do about it, or what happens? And I think to top it off, at least to finish my point here, is like, I think Theodore Judson has the best take on that issue, because he had made it very clear that the moment that you stop trusting or you stop relying on these books and these fictions and these political actions of narrative that you would treat as a manual for how the world works, that's when you realize how deeply without, or how much faith the world lacks anymore. And I know some people don't like that term, but like the age of disenchantment is here to stay, which is unfortunate and it's tragic. And whoever re-enchants the world, and religiously, politically, socially, and aesthetically, that guy's king. Whoever that decides to be.
Well, we were living through a second religiousness.
We very clearly are. And the question will really become, not just for what Arendt has written, but for really all of us, what does that mean for our children and our grandchildren? Because that's the world they get to inherit. Does that mean we end up dealing with the Spenglerian sort of like winter phase, and this just sort of becomes crystallized, and we're forever repeating 2010's politics points forever? God, I hope not. Or we realize that our cycle will be a little bit different? Who knows? If you look at it aesthetically, like just going back quickly to Mondani, like he really is like the perfect contemporary American leftist candidate. He's like perfect in every way. Oh yeah,
aesthetically, he's got everything.
It's like Seinfeld almost.
Yeah,
it's like a Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, he's just too perfect. Like I could write an essay. I should write that. It would be like deep left Joe call. Like why Mondani's perfect for the contemporary American left. He might be president one day. My God, what a terrifying thought. No, was he wasn't born in America, was he?
I have no idea. That's why I'm asking.
Where
is he? Well, do you have to be a citizen to be the mayor of New York City?
Yeah, you don't. Oh, he was born in Kampala, Uganda. So sorry.
Oh, so he's not even a paperwork. I mean, he's a paperwork American, but I mean, like, he's not even a birthright citizenship American.
Nope.
Yeah, well, he can't be president, so that's nice.
Yes, he can't be president. No.
They'll
change the rules though for him. They'll change. They want to do that with Schwarzenegger. Sex Freakman has a great point though.
What's he say?
I think the fate of American politics is the punishment for our hubris of the banal, by which I mean we are as insignificant as the average man in history, but we have a certain pride about it. That's very true.
I think to an extent too, on that point, like there's a fetishization of insignificance. Especially on the left, like the I'm my heckin' Stardust type of posting, like that is the greatest embodiment, I think, of that kind of hubris, is to reject it and to say that you are nothing. And I liked my favorite point about that is like a Gravantis tweet where he's just like, take that to its logical conclusion. You don't mean anything. World with genocide, world without genocide. So
that can't be a real super chat, can it?
I don't know, but
that can't be a real super chat.
That can't be a real super chat, can
it? Can't be real.
Is that on YouTube or is it on Entropy?
It's on YouTube. Go to YouTube.
I gotta check. Oh my God.
It's in Australian dollars.
Still.
Which is similar to Canadian. That can't be real.
Yeah,
Holy
it is.
Crap.
Wow. Good Lord.
It can't be real.
We'll have fun with that one later.
Okay, let's just one last point. Yes, A is Australian dollar.
Yeah.
That can't be. I feel embarrassed now. Because I've had some pretty good super chats.
Good
Stream. I can't.
That's a lot of money, Gio. Even in American dollars, that's a lot of money.
Holy shit.
But
we'll read this and we'll go to super chats.
Let's finish it off.
Although Arendt does not turn politics into art, there is a problem concerning the disclosure of the actor in the political action. Although we are all spectators, not everyone will be an actor. In fact, Arendt rightly believes that not everybody will want to be a political actor in the public realm. Therefore, Arendt needs to admit some other forms of activity that allow individuals to disclose themselves as who they are. Otherwise, the actors will be the only persons afforded this opportunity in Arendt's politics will still be liable to the criticism she unfairly prioritized the political actors, even though it is argued that the spectators are more important politically. Well, we live in the age of the influencer.
I was about to say, we live in the age of parasociality. Like not only do we live in like parapolitical schizophrenia, but we live in an age of like parasocial determinism. Like that's the most important thing for us politically now. And if we're not doing that kind of politics, then what are we really doing at all? Like you have to make the audience member feel incorporated, because the audience member is how you get your money. I want my super chat. I want something. I want such and such. And that's the only thing that really matters now. So what do? It means that if you feel like you are involved and that you matter, then politically speaking, I have succeeded. And all is well in the world, because now I'm heard. Now you hear me, and I'm seen, and I'm watched.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the super chats. This has been a great stream.
I've had a lot of fun. This has been a great episode.
I'm gonna have to scroll up, or maybe I might just go to the YouTube. There's people arguing over Wyatt Stagg. Oh my god.
Wyatt, what's done?
No, Wyatt Stagg, the YouTube film reviewer.
Oh, what about
people
him?
Were like, I don't know. People are arguing about. No, it's a good discussion. It was actually a good discussion. But let me go to oh my god, Volpez. Holy crap. Let me go to
I like Volpez. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, I love Volpez.
I've met him IRL. Good man.
Oh, is he the different Volpez than the one from
No, he is a different Volpez from the Twitter one.
Oh, okay.
Which threw me off for like it threw me off for like 2.5 years. Because like 2 years ago, he was like, "Oh, Prude, it was nice to meet you," and I'm like, "I met this strange, like, Flemish man. I don't recall." And then I find out earlier this year, in the summer, that's a different person, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm retarded," because I see the name and I think it's the same person from Twitter.
Me too.
We're a little special around here. Forgive us.
Yeah. Nikki Vallejo says I have Habsburg money. I don't know, man. You might have Habsburg money. We'll see. Holy crap. Okay, let's go to Entropy, and then we will go to the YouTube super chats. And the Entropy does contain a film review request.
You're reviewing Wall-E.
If you want to review it too, we'll split it.
You don't need to split it. No need. I can hop on and review it if you want.
All right,
but if you want it to be a Gio exclusive, that's okay too.
You said he screwed in Gio, so.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll just do it.
All right. So Serbian cat for $10 US. I have a feeling my voice is gonna be hoarse by the end of this. Gio, can you wish me luck? Just got a tentative job offer as a deportation officer. Is that real? Is that real? Did you sign up for ICE?
I know some friends that took the test and signed up for ICE. Serbian cat is like I don't know if he has notifications turned on, but that guy is the first person who likes anything I tweet.
Yeah, me too.
The guy is just an absolute. He's our strongest soldier. So
him and Scott Stevens Griper, they're the first two that. Oh, there's a few others. Sean Schaefer, there's a few.
Yeah. Others. So, sir, if you did get an offer. And you're going to work for ICE. Godspeed, Patriot. Godspeed.
We wish you the best of luck.
Send them all back.
And Sam153 for $20. Sneed. Hope you boys are enjoying summer. Great speech premiere by Prude today on the OGC. Oh, yes. By the way, the OGC channel has Prude speech. I was thinking about doing
I pulled that out of my ass. Every conference I've ever spoken at, outside of maybe one time where I had a note card, I have always spoken extemporaneously. Like I don't know what I'm really going to say until like the day or before. So I literally had a screenshot of a quote from Theodore Judson in his book, but like the rest was like, "Hey, I've been talking about all these things on podcasts. I think I can make this into a talk." So if you're interested, the speech is called "No Man Knoweth the Hour." I think it's a pretty good speech.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about it because I was planning on doing a content-minded episode and found footage videos, and the sort of zombie thing, and like why the zombie thing is such a powerful archetype in the American unconscious. I think it does relate to the frontier thesis, and I was planning it, and Prude just stole it. He just posted it.
He just tweeted it out. He just said it.
Excellent suit. He's got like that beige, like
yeah.
Beige is good color.
I really liked how that turned out. I'm very glad to find that suit. I do need to get it tailored. That was I hate to admit it. I bought that like a week before I left. I did not have time to get that fitted. So that is my off the rack look.
Nice.
So forgive me. I know that my fashion friends are gonna eat me alive, but there you go.
Yeah. Pretty excellent suit. Not liking what little I've seen of the new King of the Hill. Glad I'm not in New Scotland. New Scotland? What's New Scotland?
I have no idea.
Oh well.
I'm just gonna review it. I'll put it up as a video. I'm just gonna do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sam15.
Very
kind.
You're
gonna do that?
Yeah, I'm gonna go do that.
Nice.
I have too many thoughts.
And Sean Schaefer for US $3. Good to see you guys streaming again. I too will throw my hat in with the ice. I'll be sure to give you guys a cut of the 50,000 if I get the job there. Cheers.
Oh yeah, they're giving like a 50 grand signing bonus
for ice.
Yeah.
Wow. Every Twitter, I think it was a Trash Road Citizen that had that tweet about like if they opened up like signing up for a border guard, there would be like literally like traffic up and down the US-Mexico border for people signing up to be like volunteers. Nova Scotia equals New Scotland. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
That's
there you go. I'm retarded.
There you go. And let's go to the bigger ones. And speaking of Charlie Mackey for US $50. Thank you so much, Charlie Mackey. Good evening. I hope you're both well. This question is really nothing to do with anything going on or that you probably have talked about tonight, but it's been a worm in my heart. Sorry, a worm in my head. If a vampire... Oh, what kind of stupid question is this? If a vampire drank blood... Sorry, if a vampire drank from the Holy Grail, would it cure their vampirism? Save their soul from damnation? Destroy them instantly? Something else? I think it would... I would lean towards it would save them. Probably.
Yeah, whoever shall eat of my flesh and drink of my blood shall not die but have everlasting life. I think it would save the vampire.
Yeah, probably. I'm leaning towards
Christ
that.
is the living water. It would save him.
Yeah.
But I think it really does determine if he is drinking from it with a pure conscience, because you can approach the mysteries unprepared and it can kill you. Mm-hmm. So I guess it just depends. Is the vampire trying to save himself from his own curse, or is he...
Or if he got tricked into doing it.
Or he got tricked into doing it. If he got tricked into doing it, I think it would kill him.
Oh,
but
yeah, definitely.
He's doing it with earnestness and trying to save his own soul. I genuinely think it would save him and cure him.
I agree.
That's a good super chat question.
That is a good super chat.
About the news. Follow Charlie's example. Give us stuff like that to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. I like to think we talked about other things besides the news tonight, but
no, we did this was great. Great episode.
And finally, Nimu Albon. Oh my God, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. But it's for the Wally review. US $125. Thank you so much. Holy crap! First stream back. Oh man, I hope. Listen, you guys better be as generous to Prude next week, okay? Like. You have to. You set a high bar for Digital Archipelago. Hey, Gio and Prude, I've seen many reviews of the Pixar movie WALL-E from a left-wing perspective. And by the way, when we do the WALL-E review, I will try to look for academic papers. I know they exist that mention WALL-E. So would you be willing to review from our side of a thing? Yes, we will review. Me and Prude will review WALL-E. So maybe next week. Or the week after that. We still have to review Steins Gate.
We could probably do WALL-E next week.
Yes.
Just because it's a quicker film to review. Whereas
Steins Gate?
Steins Gate is 2 seasons, and that's going to take a hot minute.
Yeah, definitely.
So, not opposed. We can make that work.
Well, we're going to do it. Yeah.
We're going to do it. Yeah, we'll do it next week.
So let me go to the YouTube Creator Studio because I would have to scroll up from all the comments to do. Unfortunately, I can't... and like I say, next week, tomorrow I'll release this essay, and next week or this week I will come out with a content-minded, probably the Warhammer 40k review. And man, I still can't believe this. Okay. See all.
Yeah, I've got a lot actually coming out this week too. I mean, so
nice.
I posted a clip, a short selection from my the film festival with Last Things on Saturday, talking about Redbeard. I have a Discourse Corner episode coming out this Thursday, and I have 2 essays coming out on Friday. One is about being the introduction to a series of essays called Program to Post, and then I have one out for the I took a break from David Stone.
Program to Post.
Yep.
That was like when Kat Dee came out with that one title of a episode, Traumaguchis.
Yeah. So one of the things to give her a lot of credit for.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And I think I messaged her about it not too long ago too, but like she absolutely called it several years ago with the essay about the incoming era of like anti-sex positivity. She wrote that like 4 years ago, and holy shit did she call it.
And like selling dick pills to Zoomers, she also called that one.
Yeah, that yeah. Because man, I don't have a television in my apartment. I only see TV or commercials when I go visit my parents or things like that. And the amount of commercials for sports betting and dick pills is beyond unsettling.
I can't watch a hockey game with those. I hate
like I'm genuinely just disgusted by how many commercials I see for dick pills and it's not like, you know, how like Viagra is marketed. It's for young people or people in their 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And just
Blue Chew.
Is there just a national wave of erectile dysfunction that I'm unaware of? Like I don't get it.
There is apparently.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Are we all just that obese and like jerk off too much? Is that what's happening here? I don't know. I'm like, I don't have this problem. That's why I'm asking.
I think it's more common than people would like to admit. Okay. I think I don't even think. I mean, there's obviously a chemical component to it, and lifestyle and so forth. But I do think that there's obviously something
that ugly.
No, it's not even that. I think that like no.
Sorry, I had to get my yucks in.
I think it's more of a spiritual thing where true eroticism has been robbed from younger people. So I think people in general have gotten fat, not just women. I think even men. Although you do see a lot of skinny Zoomers. I do notice
there's a lot of skinny fat Zoomers.
There's like I do notice there's a lot of skinny Zoomers. There is like chunkier women, but I mean I personally don't have a problem with that. But like that's the average man. I think like, but then again, I don't think
you were known, Gio, for saying that she should gain some weight.
I think it's a sort of like manosphere polemic. I think that people in general are more unhealthier. I think.
Oh yeah,
and that definitely it doesn't even matter necessarily about. I mean, the obesity crisis is a real thing, obviously, but I think even people that are skinny that are younger, they're subject to a lot more chemical interference in daily life than
the top 3 sort of like those sort of medicalized commercials I see are dick pills, GLP-1 stuff, and like Nutrafol for hair growth.
Yeah. There's a lot of Ozempic commercials as well.
Yeah, Ozempic stuff, hair
semaglutide
stuff, like the big pharma has declared war on the Norwood Reaper, and I think it will lose.
Yeah.
So
can't
I guess
nature.
Yeah, you can't win.
No.
If it's true and you guys do win, let me know. But until then, I will face it with dignity.
No, men are architects, Gio. Oh my god. Oh my god.
That is true. Not all men are architects.
All right. So, we have Goth bureaucrat for £1 British pound sterling. We call him the Q word Starmer, actually.
Queer Starmer.
Yeah, queer Star. I mean, 2-tier Kier is a pretty good name. 2-tier Kier is pretty good. I like that. And Numu Zed for another super chat for $10 Canadian. Thank you so much, Numu Zed. Recently been rewatching everything from old Shoe on Head videos, Sargon, Murdoch. It's crazy how many crazy events from the 2010s have been memory hold. But all of us cannot be lore masters. But I think that there's a mad dash to basically memory hold the 2010s because it really was a cultural black hole. So
I don't think most people want to remember their youth either.
Yeah.
How much of that stuff do you think June wants to remember? And I don't even mean to be like a whole white knight here, but like, do you think June really wants to remember Armor Skeptic and all that other shit?
The nudes. Yeah.
Or that either. Does anyone want to remember that? No. Would I want to remember that? No. Do I want to remember some of the things I said 5 years ago as the
God, no. God, no.
So, I mean, just
some stuff I said 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, does Carl want to think about the you're
acting like a bunch of white you-know-whats? Yeah.
I don't
Carl wants to send black.com to alt-writers on
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, like, remembering your youth fondly is for boomers. That's like, I think that even stopped maybe with Gen Xers, but like, no, it definitely stopped with although millennials are more nostalgic for their childhood, not for their teen and 20s.
Yeah.
So,
well, unless you like succeeded in your teens and 20s, then I guess so.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
It would be very different.
But the world around you was falling apart, so could you really remember it that fondly?
I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know if you were rich and handsome and successful.
I had a pretty all things considered, like I did some cringe shit in high school and college, but like I don't know. I don't look back on my youth in this like total cringe way.
Me neither.
I quite like parts of my youth.
I always wanted to be older. So, anyways, and so thank you so much, Nemuzed. A lot of stuff has been memory hold. That is true.
Oh yeah.
And our good friend Shane Swenson Iconography, who will be on Content Minded, he promised me. So yeah, we're probably.
I can't believe I got to him first before you.
Yeah, I know, eh? Bastard. No question for US 489. No question, just love. Heart emoji. Thank you so much, Shane, a good friend. I like how he spells it with a Y. Because when I was a kid, one of my favorite players in the Toronto Maple Leafs was Shane Corson, and they both spelled it with a Y. I like the spelling with a Y. Like, I don't know.
It's a good name.
It's a good name. And Port Film Co., our good friend, for $2 Australian. Check out the book Anti-Politics, Volume 1, The Elite. What book is that? Anti-Politics, Volume 1, The Elite.
It is a collection of stuff from Scrump and them, if I recall correctly.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Wavelings, Anti-Politics, Volume 1, The Elite book out now.
Because that's the name of their Substack, if I recall correctly.
John Sweeney and Evelyn Grant. Oh,
yep, that's them.
I'll check it out. It's got a review by AA. Yeah, I'll check that out. So thank you so much, Port Film Co. He's a great fan of mine. And then who else? Volpez. Wait, Seasider for $10 USD. Thank you so much, Seasider. Mike Judge made an animated series called Tales from the Tour Bus. The first episode is about Johnny Paycheck. It's more entertaining than King of the Hill reboot. I didn't know that he made. Was it just about country musicians or musicians in general?
I have to give that a watch.
Tales from the Tour Bus. Johnny Paycheck was a wild figure in country music.
Sure was.
Oh, it's about music in general. The guy, like Johnny Paycheck, he almost like died a number of times in like different bar fights and confrontations. So then before the big one, we have Volpez Persona for $10 US. I'm inspired. Here's some Darl bucks, mates. Thank you. I love how Nikki always says Darls. I love that. I wonder if that's an Australian thing. And finally, I don't know what I did to deserve this in life. I'm almost embarrassed. Like I've never received a super chat this big, but oh my God. Our good friend who's been with us for the beginning, the very first, I think she knew me from Follow the Rules, actually. I think I used to see her in the chat. But
you have a very loyal following, Gio. Never take it for granted.
My God, I can't believe it. Miss Nikki N. Vallejo for Australian $499.99. Here you go, Darls. Cheers. I'm gonna go swim now, and she's one of our biggest fans, and I can't believe it. This is yes, thank you, Darlin is incredibly keno, and wow, that's incredible, and wow, it's I'm awestruck, and so thank you so much, and from the bottom of my heart, we actually have one more super chat, and wow, that's incredible,
incredible generosity,
and I hope, like I said, I hope you people show a lot of love and generosity to Prude next week as well. And it's viewers like you that make this possible. We're not funded by anybody. We're not being funded by some millionaire or some foreign government. Don't trust the allegations. No, but seriously, we're funded by our viewers.
Viewers like you.
Viewers like you. It's not. I know it's a cliche, but it's the truth.
We're PBS, but better.
We're PBS. Yeah.
Because we are funded by viewers like you, not the taxpayer.
Nikki's a beautiful Australian woman, and I thank you. We're very grateful, and I'm very blessed from the bottom of my heart. And if you have any requests for me to review something, Nikki, please. But anyways, yeah. So I'm very grateful and very humble. Yeah, we may be heading for dark times. Who knows? But
Serbian Cat replied to us on Twitter. He had said that the thing about joining ICE is real, and that he has notifications turned on for us.
Gio, it's a real offer. Don't want to dox myself, but I can show a screenshot of your email, and yes, I have notifications on for you, Improved. Wow, that's great. So
top soldier.
Yeah, top soldier. But thank you so much, Nikki. I don't know what to say. This is incredible. And what an amazing gift. And really, I'm very humbled. And finally, we have one more super chat on Entropy from Global Village Coffee Chud. By the way, I love the Global Village coffee aesthetic. That's, I could do a whole video essay on that one. Hey, Gio, for US $5. Hey, Gio, love the Zach Brown episode of Content Minded. Please consider doing more conversations with artists in the future. Oh, you believe me, I will. I want to pivot to a lot of conversations with fellow artists if they're willing to come on. I have a few in mind. Shane Swenson's one of them. I know Petra Courtwright said that she would come on the show. And I definitely want to do a lot of more art-driven content. And Zach Brown is a very, very good friend of mine. I know him in real life as well. And I'm actually going to hopefully collaborate with him in the future on doing different things. So, yeah. And Zach Brown's truly one of the best artists of our generation. I don't say that lightly. He truly is a visionary. And I'm not just saying that because he's my friend. But even before he was my friend, So it was a great episode. I recommend people watch that one. We talked a lot about the contemporary art world. We talked about the scene. We talked about our own artistic processes, and it's a truly great episode. We talked about deep lore, various things. So yeah, it's a great one. Do solo content minded episodes count as video essays? Well, when I do a singular topic, probably. Yeah. So, anyways, this has been quite a night, and we will see you next week. And yeah, this has been a great stream. We're very thankful to all of our fans, and especially a huge thank you to Nikki Vallejo. And yeah, this has been amazing. So we'll see you next week. We'll do the Wall-E review, and
it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah. I haven't seen the film in a long time.
Yeah, I was like, I haven't seen that film in like what feels like 8 years.
Yeah,
at the least. So it'll be a good time.
Yeah. But like I say, I have an essay coming out next week. It's a smaller one, and hopefully a content-minded and Prude has a bunch of stuff.
I got 2 essays coming out on Friday, and I've got a Discourse Corner episode this Thursday.
Yeah, and go and watch the Oral Glory Club stream he did. Lecture he gave.
Yeah, I gave a talk earlier this summer. The whole speech is up on the OGC's channel. I was also live with them on Monday. We talked about Frederick Jackson Turner and the importance of the frontier in American history.
Nice.
Yeah, good time.
Great. All right, as we always say, let's just check entropy one more time. As we always say, God bless, goodbye, too sweet.
See you, gents.